Chapter 440. Chi. Under the black mist, the flesh and blood of the two black-clothed old men were disappearing, as if a knife was slicing through their bodies. Wherever the black mist came in contact with, pieces of flesh and blood would disappear, and blood would flow out. When the black fog dissipated, the clothes of the two old men were in tatters. They were worse than the clothes of a beggar. There were many places on their bodies that were badly mutilated, and blood was flowing out of the wounds all over their bodies. You've reached level 2 of the desolate level? One of the black-clothed old men looked at Gray in shock. How could you reach level 2 of the desolate level at such a young age? The other old man was also shocked, and could hardly believe it. Even His Highness Nichols, who had the best aptitude among the younger generation of the Flame Kingdom, had not reached level 2 of the desolate level at Wang Xian's age. Let me send you on your way. Gray's eyes were filled with killing intent. The long river of black fog swept out again. It was extremely violent and kept churning. The surrounding ground and buildings were all shattered. We can't deal with this man. The two black-clothed old men did not hesitate. They fled in different directions, one on the left and one on the right. They were about to escape from the long river of black fog. But at this moment, the long river of black fog that was rushing forward suddenly changed. The huge long river forked, and the two heads of a double-headed snake chased after the two old men, blocking their way and crashing into them. Bang! Bang! The two old men were wrapped in the black fog and flew backward. Their bodies were covered with wounds, and in some places their bones could even be seen. Whoosh! Gray rushed out, holding a huge black sword and stabbing at one of the black-clothed old men. The black-clothed old man wanted to get up and dodge, but the injuries on his body were not light, so he was unable to get up immediately. Puff! The black greatsword in Gray's hand pierced through the black-clothed old man's chest, going straight through his chest and through his heart, leaving a bloody hole where his heart should be. The black-clothed old man, who was struggling to get up, suddenly went limp and fell down with a horrified face. Pulling out the black greatsword, Gray rushed towards the other black-clothed old man. Taking advantage of the time just now, this black-clothed old man had already crawled up and was about to turn around and flee. However, he was heavily injured, and even his leg was injured, so he couldn't display his usual speed. Gray caught up with him in a few steps. From behind the old man, the huge black sword whizzed towards him. The old man dodged to the side, but his left hand was hit by the huge black sword. Blood splattered, and his left hand flew up high. Gray's sword turned and once again slashed towards the black-clothed old man. The black-clothed old man held a short saber in his right hand and attached a green light to the short saber to resist. Crack! With a crisp sound, the green light shattered, and the huge black sword pierced straight through, leaving a long bloody wound on the black-clothed old man's chest. The black-clothed old man flew backwards and smashed into a wall, causing the entire wall to collapse and dust to rise in all directions. Gray rushed over, his long sword piercing towards the old man. Blood dripped from the corner of the old man's mouth, and his eyes were filled with shock. Knowing that he was going to die, he shouted with a sinister expression, "Just you wait, you will all die." His voice was vicious, as if he was cursing. Puff! Gray was unmoved, and his sword pierced through the old man's heart, killing him. The three did not stop, and continued to rush towards the residence of Francis and the others. After a few more rounds of fighting, Gray's group arrived at the residence of Francis and the other members of the royal family. Not good. After arriving, Gray's group could not help but change their expressions, and their hearts suddenly sank. The house had collapsed, and there was no sound of fighting. There were only many corpses on the ground. Blood dyed the ground red, and a thick smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. Obviously, this place had experienced a fierce battle before they arrived, and the scale was not small. As members of the royal family, Francis and the others were obviously taken care of by the Blaze Tooth. "Let's split up and search." The three of them split up and searched the ruins with heavy hearts. No, no, Gray's heart was filled with worry as he searched the ruins, afraid that he would see the corpses of Sophia, Francis, and the others. There were corpses, some dressed in black, and some that Gray could not name. Fortunately, he did not see the corpses of the people that Gray did not want to see the most. A few moments later, the three of them met up and reported the situation of their search. "I didn't see the corpses of the three princes," Serene said. "That's right. I didn't either." Josiah heaved a sigh of relief. "It looks like they have successfully broken out. Judging from the traces of fighting, they should have broken out from the east," Roland said. Gray said. Because he had once learned some searching techniques from the members of the Demon Dog mercenary group, Gray easily determined that Sophia's group of three, as well as the surviving members of the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family, had broken out from the south. "Let's follow them." The three of them followed the traces. In the darkness of the night, a terrifying battle was taking place in 3 places slightly away from the castle. Dazzling and dangerous lights illuminated the night sky. Those were king-level experts fighting. They had already fought outside the castle. This was intentional on both sides. If they had gone all out in the castle, no one from either side would have survived. "There are sounds of fighting." The three of them did not pay attention to the king-level experts' battle. A battle of that level was not something that they could participate in. The three of them continued forward and encountered some black-clothed people sporadically. Finally, they heard other sounds besides the king-level experts' battle. The king-level experts' battle was so loud that it drowned out all other sounds. It was only when the three of them got closer that they could hear the sounds of fighting. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. The sounds of explosions rang out continuously. All sorts of blood fiends' abilities flickered, and large swathes of houses collapsed, sending rubble flying everywhere. Under the power of the blood fiends, everything was destroyed like dry weeds and rotten wood. Nothing remained. They could clearly feel that the battle there was extremely intense. Although it was not as intense as the king-level experts' battle, it could definitely be described as intense. The three of them hurried towards the place where the sounds of fighting were coming from. Soon, they saw both sides of the battle. On one side, all of them were dressed in black and had icy expressions. They were the blazing Fang that they had encountered many times before. On the other side, all of them were dressed differently. Some of them were even disheveled. After all, they were suddenly attacked in the middle of the night and did not have time to dress properly. "It's Her Highness Sophia and the rest. And some people from the Jewel Kingdom and the Scarlet Kingdom." Gray and the other two immediately discovered Sophia and the rest, who were surrounded by black-clothed people. At the same time, he also discovered that among the people present, besides Sophia's group, there were also people from the royal family of the Gem Kingdom and the royal family of the Crimson Kingdom, such as Glinway Austin and Lars Crimson, who were also being besieged. Other than that, there were also some aristocrats like them who had rushed over to join the royal families of the 3 kingdoms. The Purple Moon Kingdom had the Warner Nahum brothers, Gavin Kenneth, and the rest. As for the other 2 kingdoms, the Jewel Kingdom had the tall young man who had fought with Hilya Violet and the rest. The Scarlet Kingdom had Otis Adrian and the rest who had fought with Gray. The number of black-clothed people was obviously greater than theirs. Almost everyone was being attacked by 1 or 2 black-clothed people, and many of them were injured. The most dangerous thing was that, judging from the power of the battle, there were actually 8 second-grade desolate-level existences among these black-clothed people. Although the royal families of the 3 kingdoms also had such existences, there were only 5 of them, which was 3 fewer than their opponents. The only fortunate thing was that there were no third-grade desolate-level existences among the black-clothed people. Otherwise, the battle situation would be even more disadvantageous. However, it was normal that such existences did not appear. After all, such existences were only one step away from becoming king-level. They were almost always in seclusion, cultivating crazily in hopes of breaking through to king-level one day. Unless it was an emergency, they would not be mobilized. This was the case for the Flame Kingdom, the Purple Moon Kingdom, the Scarlet Kingdom, and the Jewel Kingdom. This was also the reason why there were no third-grade desolate-level existences on either side. Be careful. After instructing the two of them, Gray led them to join up with Sophia, Francis, and the rest. Even though he was not weak now, and the strongest power of his blood fiends had reached second-grade desolate level, it was absolutely impossible for him to turn the tide of the battle if he joined in. However, he did not think of turning the tide of the battle. As long as he could get in touch with Sophia, Francis, and the rest, he could teleport them away. Whoosh! Gray was in front, while Zero and Jessie were behind. The three of them quickly rushed towards the black-clothed people from behind. A black-clothed person with the strength of a barbarian blood warrior did not even have time to react before he was cut in half by Gray. After that, Gray took a few steps forward and slashed at another black-clothed person in front of him. Be careful, behind you! This person was also a barbarian blood warrior. The commotion caused by his companion's death had alerted him. He shouted a warning and turned around. Blue lightning flashed on his long saber, and violent crackling sounds could be heard in the air as he slashed behind him. However, before his saber could slash down, Gray's sword had already cut through this person's neck. This person's head flew off, and fresh blood spurted out from his neck as he fell to the ground. You deserve to die. After two barbarian blood warriors died in succession, a black-clothed person with the strength of a desolate blood warrior pounced on Gray. He held a battle axe in his hand, and the battle axe was covered in orange flames. It was like a burning meteorite smashing towards Gray. The blazing heat hit him in the face, as if it was going to evaporate him. The long sword in Gray's hand was covered in black mist, and it became a few meters long as it met the incoming battle axe. Bang! With a loud bang, the black-clothed person with the strength of a desolate blood warrior was sent flying at an even faster speed. The flames on the battle axe dissipated, and his hands were cracked by the violent shockwave. His entire body went limp and fell to the ground. After injuring this desolate-grade black-clothed person, Gray's huge sword did not stop, and he slashed in another direction. Bang! The huge black sword collided with a green saber. The green light on the saber was damaged, and the huge black sword left a deep wound on the person wielding the saber, sending him flying. After doing all this, Gray prepared to continue advancing and meet up with Sophia and the others. Suddenly, his expression changed. His long sword touched the ground, and a large amount of black mist appeared, forming a ring that protected him, Zero, and Jessica. The moment the three of them were enveloped by the black mist, a total of 4 desolate-grade attacks attacked from 4 directions. Chapter 441. A large amount of blue flames transformed into the sharp claws of a giant flaming beast. The claws clawed at Gray and the other two. A large amount of water gathered and transformed into long needles that were tens of centimeters long. They densely packed together and pierced towards Gray and the other two. A large wind blade that was tens of meters long, filled with the sharp aura of a powerful magic weapon, slashed towards Gray and the other two. A large purple thunderbolt, like a giant tree without branches and leaves, struck towards Gray and the other two. 4 attacks, 4 different abilities. The only similarity was that their power had reached the desolated level. In other words, 4 desolate blood warriors were attacking Gray at the same time. Clearly, Gray's appearance and the strength he displayed had attracted the attention of the Inferno Fong. Chi. The 4 abilities collided with the black fog surrounding Gray and the other two. The black fog shook violently, as if it could not withstand the pressure and break apart at any time. Fortunately, the violent shaking finally stopped, and the black fog was not torn apart by the 4 attacks. Although the wind-type blood-beast bloodline was not in its most ideal state and its power was not at its strongest, it was still a blood-beast ability at the second level of the desolated level. In the end, it still withstood the 4 attacks. However, the black fog that withstood the 4 desolated level attacks had clearly become extremely thin. Clearly, the 4 desolated level attacks were the limit of the black fog. If it was hit by another wave of attacks, it would definitely break apart completely. 4 desolate blood warriors attacking me at the same time. They really think highly of me. Gray naturally would not allow such a thing to happen. The black fog surrounding the 3 of them dissipated automatically, but 4 long black rivers appeared out of thin air. Each of the long black rivers was filled with black fog. They churned endlessly and were filled with a destructive aura, as if they came from the underworld. They attacked the 4 desolate blood warriors who had just attacked. Be careful, this black fog is extremely powerful. The 4 desolate blood warriors who attacked Gray did not dare to be careless. They all used various methods to intercept the long black fog river that attacked them. One of them was extremely fast. He quickly dodged to the side, barely avoiding the long river of black fog that was attacking him. Behind him, a warrior with full HP and black couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the black fog. Ah! Wrapped in the black fog, the man screamed in pain. His body was melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. Eventually, all his flesh and blood disappeared, leaving behind only a pile of bones. One of them held a long sword with a solemn expression. Suddenly, a large amount of green light gathered on the long sword and turned into a huge green sword. He used all his strength to slash at the long river of black fog. Bang! More than half of the river of black mist was cut apart by his sword, but there was still a portion of the river of black mist that struck him. He was immediately sent flying, and his body was riddled with bloody wounds. One of them was holding a long spear. Lightning surged on the spear as it collided with the long river of black fog. The long river of black mist churned. More than half of it was extinguished by this spear, but there was still a portion that crashed into the body of the person holding the spear, leaving behind wounds that looked like they had been cut by a knife. One of them suddenly gathered a large amount of water in front of him. This water then turned into a wall of water, blocking the black fog. The black fog collided with the wall of water. The wall of water quickly melted, and the long river of black fog quickly disappeared. In the end, the wall of water and the black fog disappeared at almost the same time. The man kept retreating. Although he was in a sorry state, he was not injured. Of the 4 desolate blood warriors, other than one who was extremely fast and one who had defensive means, the other 2 had been injured by Gray's previous wave of attack. This was the battle strength of Gray, who had barely reached the 2nd stage of the desolation rank. After defeating the 4 desolate blood warriors blocking his way, Gray did not stop. He immediately brought Zero and Jaisha closer to Sophia and the others. Although he was confident that he could kill all 4 of them if the battle continued, it would be useless even if he killed all 4 of them. It would not be of much help to the current situation. The greatest advantage of the Inferno Fang was that they had a total of 8 2nd-stage desolation rank existences. This was 3 more than the royal families of the 3 kingdoms combined. As long as these 8 people were around, Gray's killing of a few desolate blood warriors would not have much of an impact on the battle. Chi. 3 black-clothed desolate blood warriors blocked the path of Gray and the others. However, under the black fog, they were quickly melted away, leaving behind a pile of bones that had been corroded beyond recognition. Bang! A desolate blood warrior blocked the path of Gray and the others. However, under the impact of the long river of black fog, he was sent flying with heavy injuries. After killing another 3 desolate blood warriors and repelling another, Gray and the others finally met up with Sophia and the others. Gray. Seeing Gray's arrival, Sophia, who was fighting a desolate blood warrior, heaved a sigh of relief. She had been worried about Gray's safety. Although she knew that Gray was strong, the opponents this time were not ordinary. There were even quite a number of 2nd-stage desolation rank existences. If Gray encountered one, even with his strength, it would be extremely dangerous for him. Bang! Gray rushed over and attacked the desolate blood warrior that Sophia was fighting. This desolate blood warrior had already seen Gray's strength and hurriedly dodged. However, he was swept in the abdomen, and blood flowed out as he was forced to retreat. "Your Highness Sophia, why are you besieged together with the royal families of the Jewel Kingdom and the Scarlet Kingdom?" Behind Gray, Zero asked. There were king-class experts fighting in the other three directions. The royal families of the three kingdoms were preparing to break through from this place, but we encountered each other. How did the Inferno Fong enter the castle without a sound? Did they have a way to avoid the runic mechanisms, or have they been deactivated? Jessica's face was worried. "We're not sure yet." Sophia shook her head. "We only reacted when we were attacked. We didn't see how they came in. I have a way to escape. Let the royal family pull away from the Inferno Fong," Gray said to Sophia. "Okay." Sophia seemed to understand Gray's plan and gave the order without asking for the reason. Gray had a teleportation magic weapon in his hand. He had used it in the battle with the Wallen family. With the royal family's intelligence network, they should know about it. The actions of the royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom had also caused a chain reaction in the Scarlet Kingdom and the Jewel Kingdom. The two kingdoms also seemed to have some way to break through, and they also pulled away from the Inferno Fong. Seeing the royal families of the three kingdoms pulling away, the Inferno Fong did not panic. Instead, they spread out and surrounded the royal families of the three kingdoms. "It's useless. You're all going to die here today," one of the black-robed men with an extremely old face sneered. This was a level 2 desolation level existence, not far from level 3. In the battle just now, he had even severely injured a level 2 desolation level existence from the Scarlet Kingdom. "How did you sneak into the castle without the runic mechanisms?" an old man from the Jewel Kingdom asked angrily. In order to ensure the safety of the three kingdoms' exchange, the Jewel Kingdom had spent a lot of money. They had even activated the runic patterns that required a large amount of magic crystals after activation. Even so, the Kingdom of Raging Flames had still managed to sneak in without causing any commotion. This was something that they could not understand. "Of course we walked in," another Desolation Blood Warrior among the men in black sneered. This was a middle-aged man who also had the strength of a level 2 desolation level. "Impossible. Once the runic mechanisms are activated, even a king-level master would not be able to break in a short period of time. It's impossible for you to sneak in without causing any commotion," another old man from the Jewel Kingdom said in disbelief. "Do you have a magic item from the Empire era that can disable the runic mechanisms?" another old man from the Jewel Kingdom said with a frown. The Empire era was a very extraordinary period. Until now, that period was still shrouded in mystery. During that period, it was not impossible to have a magic item that could disable the runic mechanisms. As for the possibility that the runic mechanisms were not activated, he did not believe it. Currently, those who knew how to activate the runic mechanisms were all trusted by the royal family of the Jewel Kingdom. They should not have betrayed them. "You still don't understand? Alright, then let me tell you. In fact, the runic mechanisms were not activated at all," another man in black said. This was an old woman. She looked at the people from the three kingdoms like a cat playing with a mouse. "The runic mechanisms were not activated? How is that possible? Could it be that the Jewel Kingdom has secretly joined forces with the Flame Kingdom to get rid of us?" Hearing this shocking news, the royal family of the Jewel Kingdom was shocked. On the other hand, the royal families of the Purple Moon Kingdom and the Scarlet Kingdom were wary of the Jewel Kingdom. The people from the two kingdoms distanced themselves from the Jewel Kingdom to avoid being ambushed by the Jewel Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen of the Scarlet Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom, please believe in the Jewel Kingdom. The Jewel Kingdom would never join forces with the Flame Kingdom. As for why the runic mechanisms were not activated, after today, if we survive, we will investigate thoroughly and give the two kingdoms an explanation. There must be a traitor. There must be a traitor among the higher-ups. The elders from the Jewel Kingdom's royal family said anxiously. Who is it? Who is the traitor? The Jewel Queen, Galloway Austen, glared at the old woman and said angrily. Only a few people knew about the runic mechanisms being activated and closed. She really did not want to believe that there was a traitor among them. However, looking at the current situation, it was very likely that there was a traitor among them. It's me. A voice sounded from behind the old woman. Then, the men in black separated and revealed a path. From among them, a man who was not in black walked out and looked at Galloway Austen with a cold smile. Chapter 442. Brady Randolph, it's you. You're the traitor. The people from the Jewel Kingdom's royal family gritted their teeth and glared at the man who walked out from behind the men in black with murderous intent. It was a dark-skinned man with a few strands of beard on his chin. He was one of the organizers of the conference, Brady Randolph. It's him. Gray and Sophia looked at each other. When they saw him returning from outside the castle, they didn't think much of it even though they were curious about why he left the castle. They didn't expect him to be a traitor who betrayed the Jewel Kingdom and joined the Flame Kingdom. It was worth pondering about why he left the castle. Brady Randolph, the Jewel Kingdom's royal family has treated you well. Why did you betray the Jewel Kingdom? Glenway Austen's delicate face was filled with anger as she scolded him loudly. Betray? No, no, no. Your Highness Glenway, you're wrong. I've always been a citizen of the Flame Kingdom. How could I betray them? Brady Randolph smiled proudly and said, What a venomous snake. You've been hiding in the Jewel Kingdom for more than 40 years. Hearing the other party's reply, everyone from the Gemstone Kingdom sucked in a breath of cold air. After that, they could not help but be filled with killing intent. Brady had been selected to join the royal family for more than 40 years. In other words, he had been hiding in the royal family for more than 40 years. One could imagine how many secrets of the royal family he had secretly reported to the Flame Kingdom. It's a pity that I can't continue hiding in the Jewel Kingdom after today. Facing the angry gazes from the crowd, Brady Randolph showed a sick enjoyment on his face. I'm really reluctant to leave the Jewel Kingdom. After all, I've been here for more than 40 years. Shameless. The people from the Jewel Kingdom were furious. If I don't die today, I'll kill you even if you have to hide in the Flame Kingdom. If I don't die, stop dreaming. All of you are going to die. Not only are you going to die, even the 3 kingdoms will be destroyed in the near future. Brady sneered in disdain. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Suddenly, Glenway Austen took out a silver battle-axe and threw it at Brady Randolph. The silver battle-axe was covered with strange patterns. They were extremely complicated, but they didn't seem to be engraved. Instead, they seemed to be naturally formed. Boom! The silver battle-axe that was thrown out exploded, and a terrifying aura suddenly erupted, like a landslide or a tsunami. Then, countless earthy yellow lights appeared, like meteorites that attacked forward. This was a forbidden weapon, a weapon that only a king-level expert could refine. Moreover, it was a weapon that required a huge price to refine. At the same time, a purple spear covered in strange patterns appeared in the hands of Francis of the Purple Moon Kingdom, while a crimson longsword covered in strange patterns appeared in the hands of Lars of the Scarlet Kingdom, both of them throwing their weapons in different directions. Boom! Boom! The purple spear and the scarlet sword both exploded, and a terrifying aura that wasn't any weaker than the silver battle-axe spread out. The purple spear transformed into a giant beast covered in purple flames, while the crimson spear transformed into a giant crimson lightning bird. Both of them charged forward. The yellow meteorite whistled, the purple flaming beast roared, and the scarlet lightning bird screeched. Almost at the same time, the royal families of the 3 kingdoms took out their trump card. Although forbidden weapons were extremely rare, the 3 kingdoms had a stockpile of them. Those who participated in this exchange were the most outstanding disciples of the 3 kingdoms. It was normal for them to have something like this just in case. Humph, do you really think we don't know that you have something like this? At this moment, Brady Randolph sneered. In order to succeed in this assassination, the Flame Kingdom was also very well prepared. Naturally, they were wary of the forbidden weapons that the three kingdoms might have. In the direction of the three forbidden weapons, there were people in black who attacked. They each held a golden spear with strange patterns. Puff, puff, puff. The three of them stabbed their spears into the ground. Instantly, 3 walls of golden flames rose up. It was as if they were made of immortal golden metal, giving off a metallic feel. Boom, boom, boom. The yellow meteorite, the purple flaming beast, and the scarlet lightning bird hit the golden flame walls. It sounded like a comet hitting the moon. However, when the 3 extremely powerful attacks hit the golden wall of flames, they did not show any signs of being destroyed. Although cracks appeared on the golden wall of flames, the 3 attacks were quickly dissipating. Boom! Finally, the golden flame walls shattered completely. However, the attacks from the 3 forbidden weapons also dissipated completely. Only the shock waves that were weakened by the golden flame walls spread out in all directions. Even so, everyone was still thrown around with injuries. Some of the weaker ones, or those who were too close to the center of the explosion, even died. Obviously, the Flame Kingdom had also prepared forbidden weapons for this assassination. Moreover, they had prepared 3 defensive forbidden weapons. It's useless. You will die today. Seeing this result, Brady Randolph laughed proudly. The others from the Flame Tooth sneered as well. They also have forbidden weapons. Seeing this result, many of the people from the 3 kingdoms were shocked. They felt despair. Originally, they thought that the forbidden weapons could kill a large number of the Flame Tooth's experts and give them a chance to turn the tables or escape. However, they didn't expect the other party to also have forbidden weapons that blocked the power of their forbidden weapons. The black-clothed people from the Flame Tooth sneered. The 3 kingdoms were in despair. At this moment, something unexpected happened. Another weapon appeared in Glenwy Austin's hand. It was a magic weapon in the shape of a bracelet. She wore it on her left hand and poured the power of blood into it. Buzz! A yellow light spread out and covered the people from the Jewel Kingdom. The Jewel Kingdom people were enveloped in the yellow light. Then, under this yellow light, the people from the Jewel Kingdom started to sink into the ground. It wasn't just Glenwy Austin. Lars Scarlet and Francis also took out a magic weapon once more. The weapon in Lars Scarlet's hand was a strange wing-shaped weapon. As he poured the power of blood into the weapon, it emitted a red light that covered the people from the Scarlet Kingdom. Then, it carried everyone and flew into the sky. Francis' weapon was a short spear. The tip of the short spear wasn't sharp. Instead, it was in the shape of a flame. With the power of blood, the purple flame spread out and covered the people from the Purple Moon Kingdom, including Gray. They didn't feel the burning sensation on their bodies. However, they all turned into purple flames and flew forward quickly. The black-clothed people with the strength of desolate blood warriors tried to stop them. However, as soon as they were touched by the purple flames, they started to burn. Obviously, the purple flames weren't completely harmless. In fact, they were extremely powerful. Not good. The sudden change made the black-clothed people's expressions change. They didn't expect the 3 kingdoms to have such a trick up their sleeve. Damn it, this is a special weapon that's even more precious than a silver-grade magic weapon. The 3 kingdoms actually took it out. Brady Randolph couldn't maintain his calm expression anymore. They definitely won't be able to hold on for long. Chase, don't let them escape. Whoosh! The sound of the wind blew past his ears. Gray, who was moving quickly within the purple flames, was amazed. The royal family actually has such a trick up their sleeves. He realized that he had underestimated the royal family's strength. He didn't expect the royal family to have such a powerful magic weapon. Originally, he wanted to use spatial teleportation to save Sophia, Francis, and the rest. However, it seemed like there was no need for that. With such a trick, Sophia and the rest were confident that they could escape. Although the opponent's trick wasn't as fast as spatial teleportation, it was still an extremely powerful trick. Moreover, although his spatial teleportation was almost invincible, there was a limit to the number of people he could teleport. At most, he could only bring Sophia and a few others. As for the rest, he had to give up. However, the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family obviously could bring many people with them. Looks like they failed. More than 20 miles away from Jadeite Valley, on top of a mountain, a man looked at the people from the Crimson Kingdom who were flying in the sky and the people from the Purple Moon Kingdom who were moving quickly on the ground. He seemed to be in deep thought. In the next moment, he jumped down from the mountain. However, surprisingly, he didn't fall from the sky. Instead, he stepped on the void and quickly chased after the crimson lightning and purple flames. He was also a king-level master and belonged to the Flame Kingdom. He didn't participate in the attack on Jadeite Castle. Instead, he was in charge of stopping the Jewel Kingdom's reinforcements and preventing anyone from escaping. Whoosh! His speed was so fast that one could only see his afterimage. The crimson lightning and purple flames were both activated by special magic weapons that were collected by the two kingdoms. They were specially used to escape and were extremely fast. However, they were still slower than him. Boom! While he was in the air, he slashed a huge green wind blade at the crimson lightning. The crimson lightning resisted for a moment, but in the end, it was still unable to withstand the attack of a king-level master. It was split in half, causing more than 20 people who were wrapped in lightning to fall from the sky. Those who were lucky enough not to be hit by the green wind blade only fell and were injured. Those who were unlucky enough to be hit by the green wind blade directly turned into a bloody mist. Then, he slashed another wind blade at the purple flames. Puff! The purple flames also couldn't withstand the attack of a king-level master and were shattered. An older master from the Purple Moon Kingdom turned into a bloody mist, while the others were sent flying by the violent shockwave. Chapter 443. In the wilderness, a man walked as if he was taking a stroll, but his every move attracted everyone's attention. He stepped on the void. Ripples appeared in the void under his feet. It was as if there was an invisible staircase supporting him, preventing him from falling from the void. Although he was walking, his speed was extremely fast. In just a few steps, the man had already passed the people of the Scarlet Kingdom and Purple Moon Kingdom and appeared in front of them. This was a man whose age could not be determined. At a rough glance, he seemed to be in his 40s or 50s, but at a closer look, he seemed to be in his 80s or 90s. It was difficult to determine his exact age. There's another king-level combatant. The fourth king-level combatant. Looking at the man, the people of the Purple Moon Kingdom and Jewel Kingdom, who were lucky enough to survive the attack of the wind blades, just now changed their expressions. Many of them were even filled with despair. Just now, if not for the scarlet lightning and purple flames blocking most of the attack, all of them might have been killed by the two wind blades just now. Even so, quite a few of them died under the wind blades just now. What made them feel even more hopeless was that there was actually a king-level combatant from an enemy kingdom blocking their path, ready to kill them. No matter how many tricks they had up their sleeves, in front of a true king-level combatant, it was still not enough. This was no longer a gap that could be made up for with trick. There was a natural gap between king-level combatants and them, and the gap between the two was not something that could be made up for with trick. To actually have such a special magic weapon, no wonder you were able to escape. Looking at the people of the Scarlet Kingdom and Purple Moon Kingdom, the man said, "But I'm very sorry, all of you must die here." His voice was calm, and there was no strong killing intent. However, those who were stared at by him could not help but feel a chill run down their backs and break out in cold sweat. "Sir Stanley, is the Flame Kingdom not afraid of our three kingdoms' revenge for doing this?" The Scarlet Prince Lars suppressed his anger and said. As one of the top combatants of the Flame Kingdom, the Scarlet Kingdom naturally paid close attention to him, and he recognized the identity of the man in front of him. Revenge? The king-level combatant of the Flame Kingdom, Stanley Grinton, sneered. Feel free to come. The Flame Kingdom is never afraid of any retaliation. Sir Stanley, does the Flame Kingdom really want to fight to the death with the three of us? Although the Flame Kingdom is stronger than any of our kingdoms, if the three kingdoms join forces, I'm afraid they won't be able to withstand it, right? Francis said, similarly suppressing his anger. You'll know whether or not I can block it later. But before that, you definitely won't be able to see it. The Flame Kingdom's king-class expert, Stanley Grinton, did not want to say anything more. His eyes turned extremely cold as he prepared to kill the people from the Scarlet Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom. After all, they were still in the Jewel Kingdom. In order to avoid any accidents, the other party wanted to kill them as soon as possible. At this moment, Lars and Francis took out another forbidden weapon without any discussion, simultaneously attacking the king-level expert of the Flame Kingdom, Stanley Grinton. The two of them actually had more than one forbidden artifact. Pitter-patter. The giant crimson lightning bird was dozens of meters in size. Lightning shot out from its body in all directions. The terrifying sound of thunder spread out. Just the sound alone was enough to cause the surrounding ground to crack inch by inch. Whoosh! The giant purple flame beast seemed to have come from an underground world of magma. It did not touch the ground, but with it as the center, the surrounding ground was scorched black and melted. Two forbidden weapons and two king-class experts joined forces and attacked the Flame Kingdom's king-class expert, Stanley Grinton. Along the way, nothing could stop them. Trees, rocks, and the ground. Everything was destroyed under the terrifying destructive power. Boom! The two attacks collided with the Flame Kingdom's king-class expert, Stanley Grinton, and finally spread out 1,000 meters, creating a huge ravine that extended for 1,000 meters. Did they succeed? Many people faintly felt anticipation. Two forbidden weapons were equivalent to two king-class experts joining forces. Although the opponent was a king-class expert, he was only one person. Perhaps he had been injured in the previous attack. An injured king-class expert was also extremely terrifying, but at least they had a chance of winning. However, in the next moment, everyone felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Futile struggle. A voice rang out. Everyone looked over and saw a figure appear beside the ravine formed by the two forbidden weapons. It was the Flame Kingdom's king-class expert, Stanley Grinton. He was completely unharmed. There was not a single wound on his body. Even his clothes were not damaged in the slightest. Coldly looking at the people of the Purple Moon Kingdom and the Scarlet Kingdom, Stanley Grinton's eyes were full of contempt. Two forbidden artifacts and two king-level experts were attacking together. Even if he was hit, he would still be injured. Unfortunately, only two desolate blood warriors had attacked. Their reaction speed was limited. Before they could attack, he had already calmly dodged. As expected, it's useless. Gray's heart trembled. The forbidden weapons were indeed very limited against king-class experts. Although the forbidden weapons were comparable to a king-class expert's attack in terms of power, a king-class expert's reaction speed was clearly enough to dodge the forbidden weapons before they attacked. It was almost impossible to hit a king-class expert with a forbidden weapon, unless it was under special circumstances. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without batting an eyelid, a vine spread out from under Gray's feet. It first spread under his feet, then spread to Sophia, Francis, Hilya, Zeloyan, Jessica, Gavin, Kenneth, and the Addison siblings. He was already prepared to use spatial teleportation, but it could only teleport a limited number of people. These people were either his friends or people he was familiar with. He naturally chose to save these people first. As for the others, it was not that he did not want to save them, but that there was nothing he could do. You should all be on your way. A large amount of green light gathered around the Flame Kingdom's King-class expert, Stanley Grinton. With him as the center, the entire sky turned green. Then, all the green light turned into extremely condensed green wind blades, one after another. They attacked together, enveloping all the people from the Scarlet Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom. Gray's expression changed. He immediately prepared to use spatial teleportation, but at this moment something unexpected happened. Whoosh! The surrounding ground rose from the ground and thick rocks appeared. Finally, a hemispherical barrier was formed, enveloping all the people from the Scarlet Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom. Clang, clang, clang. The hemispherical rock barrier did not look as hard as steel, but when the countless green wind blades hit it, a metallic sound was heard and all the wind blades were deflected. In the end, the green wind blades created a huge crater with a diameter of hundreds of meters on the ground around the hemispherical rock. However, the inside of the hemispherical rock was intact. Who? The Flame Kingdom's King-class expert. Tyrus's cold eyes flashed with surprise, and he suddenly became vigilant. He was very sure that this khaki-colored rock was not a forbidden weapon, but was completely constructed with energy. To be able to block his attack, it must be a King-class expert. In other words, there was a King-class expert hiding in the dark at this moment, attacking a few juniors. How impressive! The hemispherical rock disappeared. Suddenly, a group of people appeared beside the people from the Scarlet Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom. They walked out of the ground, and the ground seemed to have turned into water. It was as if they had come out of the water. This group of people was Glenwy Austin and the others. However, there was one more person among them at this time. This was an old man in khaki-colored clothes. He looked coldly at the Flame Kingdom's King-class expert, Stanley Grinton. Krell, it's you. You should be in the Imperial City. How did you get here so quickly? Seeing this old man, the Flame Kingdom's King-class expert, Stanley Grinton, frowned and said, logically speaking, the support of the Jewel Kingdom's King-class expert should not have arrived so quickly. However, the other party appeared here so quickly, which was beyond his expectations. However, he quickly thought of the reason. Sound transmission stone. The Jewel Kingdom has a sound transmission stone that only existed during the Empire era. It can be used for communication. Although not entirely correct, it's close. The Jewel Kingdom's King-class expert, Krell Austin, snorted coldly. The sound transmission stone was a rune item that appeared during the Empire era. It could be used for long-distance communication. However, it was very difficult to make. Not only did it require the extremely precious sound transmission stone as the material, but the runes that needed to be drawn were also very complicated. Such an item was extremely rare even during the Empire era, and it was completely cut off during the Kingdom era. It was the same for the Jewel Kingdom. However, the Jewel Kingdom was fortunate enough to obtain a sound transmission stone. After the Rune Master tried to recreate it, although it was not successfully refined and could not be used for long-distance communication, it could allow two places thousands of miles apart to sense each other. When one side was activated, the other side would emit noise. It was through this method that the Jewel Kingdom's royal family noticed the change and immediately sent a King-class expert over. Since you dared to come to the Jewel Kingdom, you will stay here today. The Jewel Kingdom's King-class expert, Krell Austin, said sternly with a murderous look. The Tri-Kingdom Exchange was organized by the royal family of the Jewel Kingdom. Now that such a thing had happened, the Jewel Kingdom was under great pressure. They had to give the Scarlet Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom an explanation, and the Flame Kingdom's King-class expert was obviously a very good explanation. With just you? The Flame Kingdom's King-class expert, Stanley Grinton, sneered. How about me too? Suddenly, an old man in gray clothes appeared. He had white hair and an old face, but his body exuded a terrifying aura that made people's hair stand on end. It was as if the old man in gray clothes was not a person, but a terrifying king beast that was more than 10 meters long. Chapter 444. Wilbur Austin, seeing the gray-clothed elder, the Flame Kingdom elder Stanley Grinton's expression changed. Without hesitation, he stepped into the air and turned to leave. "You'll die here today." The gray-clothed elder Wilbur Austin and the yellow-clothed elder Krell Austin snorted coldly. They also stepped into the air and chased after him as if they were stepping on invisible stairs. Swish! 3 figures rose into the air. One was running at the front while the other 2 were chasing after him. In the blink of an eye they had crossed several mountains. Stanley Grinton was extremely fast. Although he did not have wings, he was like a giant bird soaring in the sky. The 2 kings from the Jewel Kingdom were not slow either. They fell behind Stanley Grinton. No matter how fast Stanley Grinton accelerated, he could not get rid of them. "I'll stop him," the yellow-clothed elder Krell Austin said. Then, on the ground far away, a large amount of soil floated up and turned into a giant palm that covered the sky. It slammed toward Stanley Grinton. If he was hit by such a huge palm, even with the defense of a king, he would definitely be injured. Stanley Grinton's figure paused in midair and dodged to the side. Boom! On the ground, a giant palm print with a diameter of hundreds of meters appeared. Under this palm, a palm-shaped basin was formed. After dodging the giant palm, Stanley Grinton fled to the other side. At this moment, the gray-clothed elder Wilbur Austin took the opportunity to chase after him. A large amount of water condensed in the air and compressed into a giant fish beast with sharp teeth. It roared and attacked Stanley Grinton. Although it was a giant fish made of water, its power could be imagined when it was used by a king. Stanley Grinton did not dare to be careless. He drew his sword and slashed out. A green wind blade that was dozens of meters long slashed toward the fish beast made of water. Poochie! The fish beast made of water was split in half by the wind blade. The wind blade also collapsed after splitting the fish beast. The water splashed like a cannonball and the wind blade fragments like a sharp blade. They whistled and sputtered in all directions. The surrounding area was immediately filled with deep holes as if it had been hit by a cannonball. There was even a small mountain that was riddled with holes from the front to the back. Finally, it collapsed and turned into a pile of mud. This was the true power of a battle between kings. The collision of the forbidden weapons earlier was not a true battle between kings. Since the user's strength had not reached the king level, it was easy for them to be affected by the forbidden weapons power. The king-level experts who forged forbidden weapons would normally restrain the power of the forbidden weapon. Although it would not easily injure the user, its power would be reduced. When 2 king-level powerhouses fought, there was no need to consider such things. This was the true power of a king-level powerhouse. Fortunately, the 2 lords from the Jewel Kingdom arrived in time. Otherwise, we would have died today. The sky was slightly bright. Looking at the 3 kings fighting in the distance, the people from the Scarlet Kingdom and the Purple Moon Kingdom heaved a sigh of relief. They wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads, fear still lingering in their hearts. If they had arrived a little later, all of them would have died here. Although the 2 kingdoms had quite a number of desolate level kings, including a few who were at the 2nd level of desolate level, a king could not be defeated by numbers. With the 2 kings from the Jewel Kingdom here, it seems like we don't need to use the purple ring to teleport away. Gray also couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. His back was already soaked in cold sweat. Although the purple ring had the ability to teleport, he was not sure if it could teleport away in front of a king. A king's reaction was too fast. It was entirely possible that they could kill them during the teleportation. This was what he had been worried about. Now that the 2 kings from the Jewel Kingdom had arrived, the king from the Flame Kingdom could not even protect himself. Naturally, there was no need for them to teleport away. Rumble! Rumble! The battle between the 3 king-level masters was still ongoing. Rocks were collapsing, and gullies appeared on the ground. Each gully was as wide as a riverbed. The landscape in that area was undergoing drastic changes. This was a battle between kings that could slightly change the landscape. Under the siege of the two kings from the Jewel Kingdom, Stanley Grinton, the king from the Flame Kingdom, was obviously at a disadvantage. There were many injuries on his body. The most serious one was on his abdomen, where he had been hit by a meteorite. His skin was lacerated and his flesh was badly mangled. "Krell, Wilbur, don't push me too far," Stanley Grinton roared angrily after being injured consecutively. "Push me too far? You sneaked into the Jewel Kingdom and tried to assassinate us, and now you think we're pushing you too far?" The yellow-robed elder, Krell Austin, snorted coldly. With a wave of his battle-axe, large meteors fell from the sky, nearly drowning Stanley Grinton. "If you push me too far, I'll take you down with me," Stanley Grinton said with a ferocious expression as he waved his sword at the incoming meteorites. Countless wind blades slashed out, shattering all the meteorite. "Take me down with you? You'll have to have the ability first." Just as Stanley Grinton shattered all the meteors, before he could even catch his breath, the gray-robed old man, Wilbur Austin, attacked. With a slash of his blade, a huge fish beast appeared and slammed into Stanley Grinton. Danny Grinton tried to dodge, but he was scratched by the fish beast's fin. A deep wound appeared on his body. "You forced me." Stanley Grinton knew that he would be exhausted to death if this continued. His expression was ferocious as a mysterious, incomplete pattern of wind appeared in his body. Then, with him as the center, a terrifying aura spread out. In an instant, the aura he exuded was more than a few times stronger than before. Stanley Grinton is using his blood skill. He's going all out. In the distance, Gray and the others who were watching the battle couldn't help but become serious. Since the Four Kingdoms didn't have a complete set of blood skills, to the Four Kingdoms, blood skills were a desperate move that could kill 1,000 enemies at the cost of 800 of their own forces. Obviously, the Flame Kingdom's king-level expert, Stanley Grinton, had been forced into a corner. Otherwise, he would not have used his blood skill. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Before the spectators in the distance could cry out in alarm, the great change had already occurred. In an instant, a terrifying tornado appeared and covered the sky like a giant pillar. It expanded rapidly and attacked the two king-level experts of the Jewel Kingdom. Puff, puff. The two king-level experts retreated, as if they were avoiding a snake or a scorpion. However, the tornado expanded too quickly, and they were unavoidably caught in it. Blood splattered everywhere. Crack! Rocks and trees spun in the sky and were crushed to pieces. It was impossible to see what was happening inside the tornado. What happened to the two king-level experts of the Jewel Kingdom? After a while, the tornado disappeared and a huge crater with a diameter of at least 1,000 meters appeared. The two king-level experts of the Jewel Kingdom were not in the crater. Only the Flame Kingdom's king-level expert, Stanley Grinton, could be seen. His clothes were tattered as he staggered to his feet. Puff! Stanley Grinton spat out a mouthful of blood. Forcefully using an incomplete blood skill had caused him great damage. His already heavy injuries had worsened. Lord Wilbur, Lord Krell, the unexpected turn of events caused Gray and the others to change their expressions. They had not expected the battle to take such a turn. The two king-level experts of the Flame Kingdom, who had the upper hand, were now unsure of whether they were dead or alive after their opponents used their blood skills. A battle was not as simple as comparing numbers. There were too many variables. As long as it was not the end, one could not make a conclusion. Although he was heavily injured, Stanley Grinton laughed proudly. He had killed two king-level experts at the cost of being heavily injured. This was a battle record that he could be proud of. "It's good that you're still here." His eyesight was very good. Even though they were a few mountains away, he could still see Gray and the others. Gray and the others felt their scalps go numb. Even though their opponents were heavily injured, they still felt that they had no chance of winning. It's too early to be happy. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Hearing this voice, everyone's anxious hearts relaxed. This was the voice of the Jewel Kingdom's king-level expert, Krell Austin. It was obvious that he had survived the attack just now. Looking over, two figures could be seen rising from the huge pit in the distance. They were the two king-level experts of the Jewel Kingdom. Judging from their blood-stained clothes, the two of them should have been injured, but their injuries should not be fatal. In the end, they should have hidden underground to avoid the giant tornado. Stanley Grinton was shocked. He could not believe that he had not been able to kill his opponent. He turned around and tried to escape. However, he was heavily injured and his speed was not as fast as usual. Krell Austin, who was dressed in khaki clothes, chased after him and swung his battle axe down. Stanley Grinton blocked the attack with his green greatsword. However, he was forced to retreat. With every step he took, cracks would appear on the ground. At this moment, Wilbur Austin appeared behind Stanley Grinton and slashed Stanley Grinton's back, leaving a deep wound on Stanley Grinton's back. Pooh! 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 Under the siege of Wilbur Austin and Krell Austin, Stanley Grinton could not escape. His body was covered in blood, and it was difficult for him to resist. Finally, Wilbur Austin stabbed him in the heart. Cough, cough. I can't believe I'm going to die in your hands. Even though his heart was crushed, Stanley Grinton did not die immediately. The strong body of a king-level expert gave him a stronger life force than others. However, I'll wait. You'll come to accompany me soon. Stanley Grinton's eyes lost their luster. A strange smile hung on his originally ferocious face. It was as if he had seen a future where his hopes had come true at the moment of his death. Chapter 445. Pata. Stanley Grinton's lifeless body fell to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Good job! Everyone who saw this from afar clenched their fists. Their faces were filled with excitement and joy. They had been assassinated by the Flame Kingdom for no reason. Their close friends were either dead or alive. Naturally, they hated the Flame Kingdom to the core. Now that they saw the king-class expert who was chasing them not long ago die, they were extremely happy. The loss of a king-level expert would definitely cause the Raging Flames Kingdom great pain. Seeing the Raging Flames Kingdom in pain, they finally felt a sense of satisfaction. Lord Krell, Lord Wilbur. The two king-class experts of the Jewel Kingdom had plundered the Flame Kingdom's king-class experts' rune portal bag and items. They then buried the corpse on the spot and walked over. Gray and the rest greeted the two respectfully. Everyone was very grateful to the two. If the two hadn't appeared in time, they would all be dead. Even a king-class expert would find it hard to break through the rune mechanism of the Emerald Castle in a short period of time. How did the Flame Kingdom break through it so easily? Who betrayed the royal family? Krell Austin frowned and asked. Although he had met up with the Jewel Kingdom first, he was pressed for time. When he found that the Purple Moon Kingdom and Scarlet Kingdom were in danger, he didn't have time to ask about how the castle was broken through. It's Brady Randolph. He's a spy from the Flame Kingdom. He's the one who shut down the rune mechanism of the Emerald Castle, allowing the Flame Kingdom to easily invade the castle. Jellenway Austin's eyes were filled with hatred as she spoke. This was the first time she hated someone so much. Her comrade, who was laughing and chatting with her not long ago, had died forever. He could no longer laugh and chat with her. It's him. I didn't expect him to be the traitor. Krell Austin's eyes were filled with coldness. Randolph was no stranger to him. Randolph was an outsider who served the royal family, but he was in the second stage of the desolation level. It was extremely rare for outsiders to serve the royal family. Even though he had been cultivating in seclusion all year round, he had heard of this person. However, he did not expect that this person was actually a spy sent by the Flame Kingdom to infiltrate the Jewel Kingdom. The two king-level masters took the lead and hurried back. Gray and the others followed behind. They also returned to Jadeite Castle. With the support of 2 king-level experts in front and the Jewel Kingdom's reinforcements behind them, it was time to be afraid of the Blaze Fong. Before leaving, Gray glanced at the place where Stanley Grinton's corpse was buried, and then quickly followed the group back to Jadeite Castle. When Gray and the others arrived at the castle, all they saw was the ruins of the castle. Aside from them, there were only a few survivors. They didn't see anyone from Blaze Fong. Seeing Krell Austin and Wilbur Austin, the remaining 3 king-level masters and the rest of the people from Blaze Fong fled in different directions. At present, Krell Austin, Wilbur Austin, and the 3 king-class experts in the castle were pursuing these people. The various kingdoms had sorrowful looks on their faces as they counted their casualties. Soon, the statistics were out. In this assassination attempt by the Blaze Fong, 12 people from the Purple Moon Kingdom, 14 from the Jewel Kingdom, and 10 from the Scarlet Kingdom had died. Almost half of the younger generation and the older generation who had come to participate in the 3 kingdoms exchange had been lost. This was a huge casualty ratio. What saddened the 3 kingdoms even more was that the younger generation who had died were the most outstanding disciples of their respective kingdoms. Now that so many of them had died, it was imaginable that the number of experts produced by the 3 kingdoms would be reduced in the future. We can't just let this go. We must take revenge. Regardless of whether it was the older generation or the younger generation, everyone was grieving. This matter won't end just like this. The future successors of Francis, Jelenway, and Lars' kingdoms clenched their fists and gritted their teeth as they spoke. It was obvious that after suffering such a huge loss, the Purple Moon Kingdom, Jewel Kingdom, and Scarlet Kingdom would definitely take action. Because everyone was heavily injured, they set up tents near the ruins of the castle and went inside to rest. After entering the tent, Gray closed it and left a spatial teleportation symbol inside. The next moment, his figure disappeared from the tent. When he reappeared, he was over 20 kilometers away, not far from where the 3 king-level masters were fighting. When he was returning, he found an opportunity to separate from the others and left a spatial teleportation symbol here. Walking near the corpse of the Flame Kingdom's king-level master, Stanley Grinton, Gray slashed out with a few wind blades. The soil was cut open, and Stanley Grinton's corpse was revealed. It's reasonable to say that a king-level master has already exceeded the limits of corpse control, but it's worth a try. Gray's current corpse control ability was obtained from a berserk-level bloodfiend. According to his speculations, he could at most control a desolate-level bloodfiend, not a king-level existence. However, now that a king-level master's corpse was placed in front of him, Gray could not help but want to give it a try. After all, even if he did not succeed, he would not lose out. As Gray approached the corpse, a faint pressure spread out, but the feeling was not strong. With his current physical strength, it was naturally impossible for him to not be able to get close to a king-level master's corpse. Moreover, the pressure emitted by this king-level master's corpse was far less intense than that of the skeleton he had encountered in the ruins. Now that he thought about it, the skeleton he had encountered in the ruins was probably not a simple king-level master's skeleton. It was very likely that it was the skeleton of a master above the king level. Using his corpse control ability, the ball of corpse control slid into Stanley Grinton's mouth. Gray waited quietly. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. After a full half an hour, the corpse still did not have the slightest reaction. Did it fail? Gray raised his eyebrows. From the looks of it, his corpse control ability had failed. Just as Gray was about to give up and bury the corpse again, something unexpected happened. Patter! The originally motionless corpse suddenly trembled like a person who had been electrocuted. Its limbs could not help but move randomly, and then it slowly stood up. It worked! Gray felt as if he could control his own arm. It was as if a single thought from him could make this king-level master's corpse do as he wished. Gray's eyes lit up. It was obvious that he had succeeded. His corpse control ability could actually control a king-level master's corpse. It seemed that his previous understanding of corpse control was still somewhat wrong. The limit of his corpse control ability was not a single desolate level corpse, but a single desolate level corpse. However, its level could be increased. He just did not know if this increase was limitless, or if he could control corpses above the king level. Of course, there was no way to prove this point. Up until now, the strongest person in the four kingdoms had only been a king-level master. No one had reached the king level, so naturally, there was no way for him to prove this point. A king-level master's corpse. Although its combat power is definitely not comparable to a king-level master, it is definitely comparable to a third desolate level master. Looking at the king-level master's corpse in front of him, Gray felt a sense of joy and satisfaction. They had been assassinated for no apparent reason, and they had been chased by a king-level fighter. But in the end, they had reaped great rewards. They had proven that the ability to control corpses was also useful to king-level fighters. Furthermore, the king-level fighter who had tried to kill them had become his puppet. He felt the thrill of revenge. After returning this time, I can try to explore the secret room in the territory's castle. Let's recover first. Using the reverse nurturing ability, the king-level master's originally hideous wounds slowly healed until they were as good as new. In the end, Stanley Grinton's corpse was undamaged. Aside from his slightly dull eyes, he looked no different from a real person. If it had been night time, no one would have thought that this was a dead person. There was no doubt that this king-level master's corpse, which could display the combat power of a third desolate level master, would become his greatest trump card. It would become his strongest trump card. I wonder if the metallization ability would work on a king-level master. Gray tried to metallize the king-level master's corpse. Suddenly, the king-level master's corpse changed. The skin all over his body turned a silver color, as if his entire body was made of metal. It can be metallized, and after metallization, the color actually turned silver. Looking at the silver-looking king-level master's corpse, Gray was slightly surprised. The metallization ability. At the murderous and berserk levels, a person's body would turn black. Now, after metallization, Zero's body would turn black. At the barbarian and desolate levels, a person's body would turn bronze after metallization. This was the case for Gray when he was at the barbarian level, as well as the bronzeback dragon when he was at the desolate level. This time, the metallization of the king-level expert's corpse turned silver. In other words, the change in color after metallization wasn't based on Gray's cultivation level, but on the target's cultivation level. With my strength, I can't tell if the king-level master's body has changed after metallization. However, the color of metallization is different for different levels. Does this mean that metallization is a permanent ability? From Gray's point of view, the color of metallization was not based on the user's level. This meant that metallization was a permanent ability. This meant that the ability would still be useful when Gray reached the king level. I have a much better chance of investigating that secret room. The king-level master's corpse had cultivated wind elemental blood techniques, which were not good at defense. However, after metallization, his body's defense was probably comparable to a king-level master's. With such a strong physical defense, Gray had a much better chance of investigating that secret room. Chapter 446. Gray stored the king-level powerhouse's corpse into his purple ring and filled it with dirt. He then destroyed the teleportation coordinates and teleported back to his tent. After checking the tent and confirming that no one had entered, Gray erased the teleportation coordinates in the tent. Although Fitch, Violet, Sophia, Francis, and the others already knew that he had the ability to control corpses, the Jewel Kingdom and the Scarlet Kingdom did not know. He didn't want the people of the two kingdoms to know about this. After all, this ability was a great trump card for him. Especially now that his ability to control corpses was able to control king-level beings, This trump card was even more important. He trusted Fitch, Violet, Sophia, Francis, and the others, but he did not trust the people of the Jewel Kingdom and the Scarlet Kingdom. It was because of this reason that he did not try to control the corpse immediately after Stanley Grinton's death. 2 days later, in a remote town in the Flame Kingdom, a man in old clothes walked around the town and finally came to a slum with dilapidated houses. After looking around cautiously, he knocked on the door of one of the houses. His knocking was not continuous. He stopped after 2 knocks, then 3 knocks, then 2 knocks and 3 knocks alternated, as if it was accompanied by the beat of music. After a while, the door of the house opened and a man in the same old clothes appeared at the door. After letting the man in, he stuck his head out and looked at the door for a moment before closing the door again. "What's the situation outside?" There were more than 10 people in the house, all of them wearing old clothes. However, their physiques were stronger and taller than ordinary people, which made the scene feel very out of place. Among them, an old man looked at the man who came in and asked, "As expected, the border has been sealed." The old man's position among the 10 or so people should be quite high. The man who came in answered respectfully, "How are the 4 lords?" The old man continued to ask, "Lord Stanley is dead." "What? Lord Stanley is dead?" Everyone in the room was shocked and looked at the man who came in. Yes, he encountered 2 king-level powerhouses from the Jewel Kingdom who came as reinforcements. Under their pursuit, he could not escape and was killed on the spot. "What about the other 3 lords?" "No news yet." The man who came in shook his head. "This is not right. The Jewel Kingdom's reinforcements came too quickly. There may be spies from the Jewel Kingdom in the Blaze Fong. We cannot stay here. Move immediately." The old man's expression was uncertain. Hearing this, the 10 or so people stood. Suddenly, bang! With a loud bang, the wooden door flew into the room and fell to the ground with a thud. At the same time, a blue figure rushed into the room. "Who's there?" The expressions of the dozen or so people changed, and they all reached for their weapons. A long spear's response. Puff! The man who was closest to the blue figure did not even have time to touch his weapon before his heart was pierced by the long spear. Blood splattered everywhere. His hand that was reaching for his weapon froze on the spot and his body went limp. The man next to him was shocked. He pulled out his sword, which was covered in a green light. A strong wind raged in the room as he slashed his sword at the blue figure. However, before his sword could land, the blue figure had already pulled out the long spear and pierced his throat. "Go to hell!" A bolt of lightning and a bolt of flame attacked the blue figure. The blue figure was like a phantom, disappearing from the spot. The flames and lightning landed on the bodies of the 2 men who had been killed, and the 2 men's bodies turned into charcoal. "We've been discovered. Scatter and run!" The old man yelled. When the people in the room heard this, they did not hesitate to smash through the walls and rush out from all directions of the house. However, what was unexpected was that the old man did not smash through the walls and rush out like the other people. Instead, he stayed in the room and observed the outside through the hole he had made. Puff, puff! The 10 or so people broke the wall and rushed out of the room. What they saw was a person who had been waiting around the room. There were young people and old people. The 2 sides immediately started fighting. The one who had the upper hand was the person waiting outside. Among the 10 or so people, a few were killed on the spot. Only then did the old man rush out of the room and choose a place with fewer people to escape. These 10 or so people were obviously used as bait. Humph! In the direction he was escaping, there was only a black-haired young man. He had a sinister smile on his face. As he ran, he slashed out with the long red sword in his hand. Suddenly, a red flame that was like a river burned the surrounding ground with scorching heat. It attacked the black-haired young man. This was a desolate level attack. He was a desolate blood warrior. He believed that, under this attack, the other party would definitely die. There were very few young people who could block a desolate level attack. He did not believe that he would meet one, As long as he could break out of the encirclement, he believed that with the speed of a desolate blood warrior, he could definitely escape. However, he did not notice the cold eyes of the black-haired young man under the red flame. If he had noticed, he would not be so confident. Whoosh! Facing the oncoming red flames, Gray's expression was calm. Suddenly, a huge river of black fog appeared in front of him. It was dozens of meters wide, and compared to the size of the crimson flames, it was like a small river. Chi. Under the huge river of black fog, the red flame river was like a flame that was drowned by water. It was extinguished in an instant. The huge river of black fog did not slow down and crashed towards the old man. Desolate level. Level 2? The old man was shocked as he looked at the river of black fog that was still charging at him after the river of red flames had been extinguished. He originally thought that he had chosen the weakest person. He did not expect that he might be the strongest among the people who came to besiege him. He was actually a level 2 desolate level blood warrior. A feeling called regret arose in his heart. At the same time, he was extremely shocked. How could someone at such a young age have the strength of a level 2 desolate level? He was surrounded by the black fog river. His clothes and flesh were quickly disappearing. He let out a painful roar and tried to break free from the black fog river. However, he could not break free. When the river of black mist disappeared, his figure was revealed. At this moment, his body was badly mutilated, and blood was flowing everywhere. His body was covered with shocking wounds. Before he could catch his breath, he saw his opponent rushing towards him with a huge black sword. He attacked with a long river of fire and retreated as if he was avoiding a snake or a scorpion. However, the next moment, the long river of fire was cut in half by the huge black sword. His opponent rushed over quickly. Whoosh! A huge black sword slashed towards him. However, because of his previous injuries, his movements were slowed down. The huge black sword kept enlarging in his eyes. Puff! The huge black sword slashed across his neck. Blood splattered. His head flew up and his body fell down powerlessly. This guy has become stronger. A spear pierced through the throat of a barbarian blood warrior, killing him instantly. Sophia looked in Gray's direction, a trace of astonishment appearing on her beautiful face. A genuine desolate blood warrior was killed so easily by him. In the process, he was not injured at all. Compared to the battle with the Flame Kingdom, his strength had obviously increased by leaps and bounds. After a while, the fighting stopped near the ruined house. More than 10 corpses lay on the ground silently. There were more than 10 people standing near the ruins. They were Gray, Sophia, Zeloyan, Jessia, Gavin, Elijah, and a few elders from the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. They were here because they were participating in the hunt for the Inferno Fang. This was already the 3rd time they had killed the remaining members of the Inferno Fang. After the last assassination, the other 3 king-class experts of the Inferno Fang had successfully escaped from the Jewel Kingdom. Some of the remaining members of the Inferno Fang had escaped, while others had scattered to various parts of the Jewel Kingdom. Gray and the others naturally hated the Inferno Fang. Hence, they had applied to the Jewel Kingdom to participate in the hunt. The Jewel Kingdom's royal family will send people to deal with this. Let's leave this place first. A man in his 50s or 60s said. The man had a medium build. His purple hair was tinged with gray. The Purple Moon Kingdom had sent a total of 2 second-stage desolate blood warriors to participate in the 3 kingdoms exchange. He was one of them. Elder, where are we going next? Sophia asked. She had just experienced a massacre, but her blue battle armor was spotless. There was not a speck of dust or blood on it. She looked like an elegant noble lady. She did not fit in with the dozens of corpses lying around. Let's go to a hidden stronghold of the Flame Kingdom's spies. The people hiding in the stronghold should not be weak. Be careful. Yes. Everyone nodded ferociously. Their eyes flashed coldly. This was their revenge. A day later, Gray and the others appeared in a forest in the Jewel Kingdom. In the forest, the terrain was undulating. From time to time, they would come across hills that were 100 to 200 meters tall. After climbing over a few hills, they saw a simple stronghold in the forest. The walls were made of wooden fences. The houses were made of wood. At the entrance and on top of some wooden towers, there were figures in leather armor. Some of them were holding knives, some swords, and some had bows on their back. Their weapons were not uniform and looked very messy. This was a bandit group. They were not large in scale and only had about 100 people. They would only rob ordinary merchants passing by. They were one of the many bandit groups in the Jewel Kingdom and were very inconspicuous. However, few people knew that such a small bandit group had a second stage desolate blood warrior. This was a stronghold that the Flame Kingdom had planted in the Jewel Kingdom to gather information. The bandit group was just a cover. Their real identity was the Jewel Kingdom's spies. Chapter 447. Do it. Following the orders of the desolate blood warrior from the Purple Moon Kingdom, Gray and the others lurked towards the simple stronghold in front of them. Swoosh! Sophia's body was shrouded in blue light. Like a blue phantom, she appeared at the door. Puff, puff, puff. She did not hold a gun. Instead, she held a dagger that was more than 10 centimeters long. Before the few people at the door could react, she quickly slit their throats with the dagger. These few people had only gone through some training and were slightly stronger than ordinary people. Naturally, they were powerless in front of her. Within the stronghold, the people on the 2 minarets near the wall heard the commotion and looked towards the direction of the stronghold gate. Seeing that their companions were all killed, they immediately wanted to warn them. However, at that moment, 2 sharp blades made of metal powder pierced their hearts at the same time, killing them before they could make a sound. It was Zaloyan. As a berserker, he had the ability to manipulate metal. Naturally, dealing with 2 bandits was a piece of cake. Some people quickly rushed into the stronghold through the gate and began a silent killing. Puff, puff, puff. They were like silent gods of death, killing the bandits before they could even make a sound. These bandits were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. The strongest one was only comparable to a lower blood warrior. In front of these people, who were at least berserkers, they were naturally powerless. Enemy attack. It was only when they went deep into the stronghold and encountered a berserker that they heard a voice. After all, they had not experienced professional assassination and did not have the corresponding ability suitable for assassination. They could not silently sneak up to the enemy, which was why they were discovered by the berserker. There are even berserker. It seems that the information from the Jewel Kingdom was right. Gavin Kenneth said with a murderous aura after killing the berserker with a single slash. Swoosh, swoosh. At that moment, several people rushed towards him. He swung his sword and a violent chill spread out. Ice quickly spread on the ground around him. The people who rushed towards him suddenly turned into ice sculptures and froze to death. Swoosh. Upon hearing that Gavin Kenneth's side had been exposed, Gray no longer concealed his whereabouts. With the black greatsword in hand, he quickly rushed to the building in the middle of the stockade. Hearing the commotion, 2 brute blood warriors immediately rushed towards him, one in front and one behind. Puff. Gray didn't dodge. Instead, he slashed out with his black greatsword, cutting the barbarian blood warrior in front of him into 2. Then, he took a step forward, and his huge black sword met the other barbarian blood warrior who was slashing at him with a long blade flickering with lightning. Crack! Under the attack of the huge black sword, the long saber that was flickering with lightning broke into 2 with a cracking sound. The huge black sword didn't stop there and slashed diagonally at the barbarian blood warrior. Puff! Blood splattered everywhere. The barbaric blood warrior was cut into 2 from his left shoulder to his right waist. Who are you? At this moment, more than 10 people rushed out of the house in the middle. One of them was wearing a green battlesuit. Judging from his running speed, he should be a desolate blood warrior. Judging Gray's strength, he took the initiative to greet him. He shouted at Gray with killing intent. "I'm the one who wants your lives." Gray's voice was as cold as the winter wind. With a slash of his sword, a huge black fog river rushed out, covering the sky and the earth. It swept towards the man in green battlesuit. Feeling the terror of the black fog river, the man in green battlesuit's expression changed. A huge mud wall rose from the ground in front of him. It was 2 stories high and a few meters thick, blocking the black fog river. However, under the black fog river, the extremely sturdy mud wall collapsed and shattered in an instant. Pung! Behind the mud wall, the man in green battlesuit was hit by the black fog. He slid back dozens of meters. When he reappeared, there were many injuries on his body. Many of them were badly mutilated. He couldn't help but groan in pain. Desolate level 2? Blood dripped from his body. The man in green battlesuit endured the pain and looked at Gray in shock. Schwa! Gray's eyes were cold. With a huge black sword in his hand, he quickly approached the man in green battlesuit. The man in green battlesuit looked dignified. He stomped on the ground fiercely. Then, rows of sharp spikes rose from the ground near Gray. They were a few meters long and pierced towards Gray. Gray's expression didn't change. He used metal eyes. His skin was covered with a layer of metal. The spikes piercing his body made a sound of metal colliding. It was as if they were piercing a steel plate. They couldn't go any further. Crack! The black greatsword in Gray's hand swept out, breaking the spikes on his body. Then, he slashed out with his sword, and a vast river of black mist appeared, covering the sky and covering the earth as it surged towards the man in green battle armor. Knowing the power, the man in green battlesuit wanted to dodge. However, he couldn't. He was sucked into the black fog like a person in weak water. The flesh and blood on his body were rapidly melting away. When the black mist disappeared and his figure was revealed, there was not a single part of his body that was intact. His body was bleeding. His face was a mess of flesh and blood. It was impossible to see his face clearly. Puff! Gray rushed forward. The huge black sword pierced the man's heart. The man's eyes were filled with unwillingness. His body fell weakly. Gray pulled out his sword. His expression didn't change. He began to look for his next target. 3 mixed abilities. Although the Wind bloodline was only at barbarian level, its power was only at desolate level 2. However, it was still the destructive power of desolate level 2. With the destructive power of desolate level 2, facing a desolate level 1 desolate blood warrior, it was naturally easy. Suddenly, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Around Gray, dozens of vines rose from the ground. They grew to 1/2 meter thick and dozens of meters long. The surface was covered with scales. They were like dozens of pythons. They attacked Gray together. In the face of the sudden attack, although Gray was shocked, he still immediately responded. In front of him, a long river of black fog appeared. It rushed towards the vines while he retreated quickly. Chi. The long river of black fog had an extremely strong crushing power. Anything that came into contact with it would be crushed into powder. After colliding with the long river of black fog, the vines quickly melted. However, the vines were stronger than expected. While they were being crushed, they also consumed a large amount of the black fog. Finally, the long river of black fog disappeared. A huge vine broke through and hit Gray. Pung! Gray kept retreating. His battle suit was damaged where the vine hit him. His flesh was torn. He was injured. With his metallization, even a desolate level desolate blood warrior would find it difficult to damage his defense. However, he was injured by the aftermath. Desolate level 2. Looking at the wounds on his body, Gray's expression turned serious. The power of this plant had definitely reached desolate level 2. It was very likely that a desolate level blood warrior had attacked him. Although he knew that the stronghold of the Flame Kingdom would be guarded by a powerful blood warrior, he did not expect that there would be a desolate level 2 blood warrior guarding it. At such a young age, he has already reached desolate level 2? Behind the vines, a man in yellow battle suit appeared. He looked at Gray with doubt in his eyes. However, his doubt soon disappeared as he thought of the reason. You must be the one with bloodline affinity from the Purple Moon Kingdom, right? You have multiple bloodlines and can fight above your level. What? How enviable! Whoosh! Under his control, the vines that had been whipping Gray's body changed direction and once again swung towards Gray. Puff! Gray swung the black greatsword in his hand and cut the huge vines in half. Black mist followed the vines and spread to the roots of the vines. The vines were being crushed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Your ability is the same as what was recorded in the intelligence. You can crush anything you touch. It really is you. Seeing the vines being crushed at a fast speed, the man in yellow battle suit was even more certain of his judgment. If I kill you, the Purple Moon Kingdom will definitely feel the pain, right? With a cold smile on his face, he reached out his hand and grabbed at Gray. Then, more than 10 vines rose from the ground around Gray. Each of them was half a meter thick and covered in scales. They were like giant pythons attacking Gray from all directions. Whoosh! Gray did not dare to be careless. The long river of black mist rolled and shrouded him, turning into a round cover to protect him. Whoosh! Whoosh! When the huge plant vines hit the round cover, they immediately made a sizzling sound and were quickly shattered. However, the round cover formed by the black fog was also quickly thinning. Puff! A huge vine pierced through the black mist round cover and hit Gray, who was in the black mist round cover. Gray blocked with his sword, but his hands were numb from the impact and he was forced to retreat. The power of the 3 mixed abilities had barely reached the second level of the Desolate level. Facing the first level of the Desolate level Blood Warrior, it was naturally easy for him to kill it. However, when faced with a second level Desolate level Blood Warrior, it seemed to be a little lacking, and its power was lacking by a level. Whoosh! 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 More than 10 huge vines grew out again and attacked Gray. Not far away, the level 2 Desolate level Elder of the Purple Moon Kingdom attacked. More than 10 purple flames attacked the vines like giant arrows. He could see that with Gray's current strength, he could not deal with a level 2 Desolate level Elder, so he was ready to join forces with Gray. They were here to kill, so there was no need to bully him with numbers. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, something unexpected happened. More than 10 blue lightning bolts bloomed in the sky and met the flame arrows. Boom! 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 The 2 sides collided, and then both sides were annihilated. Like fireworks, a violent hurricane swept up, blowing the buildings in the stronghold askew. To be able to block the attack of a level 2 Desolate level Blood Warrior, one could imagine the strength of the attacker. There was actually a second level 2 Desolate level Blood Warrior in the Flame Kingdom's spy station. Chapter 448. Why don't I be your opponent? A man appeared and looked at the level 2 Desolate level Old Man from the Purple Moon Kingdom with a mocking look. He was a dark-skinned man with a beard on his chin. His appearance was extremely ordinary. If he was placed in a crowd, he would be extremely inconspicuous. However, it was this kind of person that left a deep impression on Gray and the others that was unforgettable. Brady Randolph. Some of them gritted their teeth and glared at him as if they were going to eat him alive. It's this bastard. It's this bastard who killed Moira. Some of the young men's eyes were bloodshot due to anger. Even Gray could not help but have a cold, murderous look in his eyes. This man was none other than the culprit behind the assassination of the 3 kingdoms by the Flame Kingdom. He was a spy in the Jewel Kingdom's royal family for more than 40 years. It's you, Brady Randolph. The level 2 Desolate level Old Man from the Purple Moon Kingdom was filled with murderous aura. His eyes were like 2 sharp knives as he glared at Brady. What a scary look. Do you want to kill me so badly? Unfortunately, I'll live on. Brady Randolph shrugged and smiled coldly at the furious gazes from the crowd. On the other hand, you guys escaped the previous time, but you're going to die here this time. Seeing Brady Randolph appear, the man with the plant ability was not in a hurry to attack Gray. He looked at Brady Randolph and said, "You're right. You're right, this place has indeed been targeted. It's just a level 2 desolate level blood warrior. The two of us can handle him. After killing him, we can escape easily." Brady Randolph looked relaxed as he glanced at Gray and the rest. His eyes finally landed on Gray as he spoke in a mocking tone. "I didn't expect to catch such a big fish." From his point of view, the threat that Gray posed was even greater than the few direct descendants of the Three Kingdoms royal families. The few direct descendants of the royal family could only become king-class warriors in the future. But Gray was different. His talent was not bad. Not only did he have the potential to become a king-class warrior, but his combat ability was also far superior to those of the same level. A level 2 barbarian level could easily kill a level 1 desolated level berserker and even survive a level 2 desolated level attack. If he was allowed to continue growing and become a king-class warrior, his battle prowess could be comparable to a second-grade or even third-grade king-class warrior. At that time, the threat he would pose to the Flame Kingdom would be greater than 10 king-class warriors combined. Is there really such a big threat? Let's not talk about whether or not he can become a king warrior. Even if he does become a king warrior, I'm afraid that his affinity will reach its limit. In all of history, I've never heard of anyone being able to fight above their level at the king level. The man in yellow armor didn't think much of it. "We have to be careful," Brady Randolph said solemnly. "But now, as long as we kill him here today, it won't matter whether he can fight against people of a higher level after reaching the king level." "You're right." The man in yellow armor nodded. He looked at Gray as if he was looking at his prey. The next moment, whoosh, the level 2 desolated level berserker's speed burst out. He was like a yellow phantom, rushing towards Gray. A long river of black fog that was dozens of meters wide appeared. It surged violently and crashed towards the other party. However, the other party sneered and held a long spear in his hand. He activated the spear's ability and pointed it out in the air. As he pointed his spear, a large number of green wind blades, each several meters long, suddenly appeared and densely pounced on the long river of black fog. The black fog river shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, it disappeared completely. Many wind blades broke through the blockade and attacked Gray, who was behind the black fog river. Crack! Crack! Gray held the huge black sword in his hand. He waved his sword in a slightly awkward manner, shattering the wind blades that were attacking him. A wind blade brushed past his arm, and the armor on his body immediately cracked, leaving a scratch on his arm. "Genius or mediocre, you're going to die today," the man in yellow armor sneered. He held his long spear and quickly approached Gray. Whoosh! At this moment, a blue figure appeared beside the man in yellow battle armor in the blink of an eye. A spear swiftly pierced towards the man in yellow battle armor's throat. Whoosh! Facing the sudden attack, the man in yellow armor was shocked. He moved his body slightly to the side to avoid the attack. The spear brushed past his shoulder and left a scratch on his armor. Almost getting hurt, the man in yellow armor was furious. He swept his spear at the blue figure, but the blue figure had already pulled away and dodged the attack. This person was Sophia. Among all the people present, other than the level 2 desolated level berserker from the Purple Moon Kingdom, she was the only one who had such speed. So fast. The man in yellow armor looked at Sophia with a hint of surprise in his eyes. "If my attack was not so weak, I might have been hurt by you." On the other side, Brady Randolph was already fighting with the level 2 desolated level berserker from the Purple Moon Kingdom. "Be careful. This girl has a special ability. Although she doesn't have any attack skills, she's extremely fast. Is it just very fast? The man in yellow armor's eyes turned cold. Suddenly, a large number of vines broke out of the ground. They were as thick as stone pillars and had sharp tip. They attacked Sophia. Poof, 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 poof. The vines pierced through the ground. Sophia dodged them again and again with her speed. Humph! The corners of Gray's mouth curled up slightly when he saw the man in the yellow battle suit attacking Sophia with all his strength and leaving him hanging on the side. A trace of coldness flashed through his eyes as he slashed his sword at the man in the yellow battle suit. Chi! Chi! A huge black fog river that was dozens of meters wide surged forward. Large amounts of plants and vines disappeared, and the black fog river crashed into the man in yellow battle armor. Bang! The man in the yellow battle robes retreated. His battle robes were in tatters, and many parts of his flesh had disappeared. It was as if a sharp dagger had sliced through his body again and again. D. Drops of blood dripped onto the ground, leaving a pool of dazzling red. Unlike Sophia, Gray's attacks were enough to threaten the man in yellow. As long as he was hit, he would definitely be injured. All of you deserve to die. The yellow-armored man's face was ashen. As a level 2 Desolation level blood warrior, he was actually injured by 2 juniors who had not even reached the Desolation level. This made him feel extremely humiliated. A strong murderous aura shot out from his body. It was like a thick dark cloud, pressing down on Gray and Sophia. This was the embryonic form of coercion. When a blood warrior became a king warrior, this murderous aura would transform into coercion. Just the release of this invisible coercion was enough to crush an ordinary person and make a blood warrior unable to stand up. After all, he had reached level 2 Desolation level and was in the process of transforming. Although his coercion was not as strong as that of a king warrior, it already had some deterrent effect. Logically speaking, this murderous aura was enough to affect the savage blood warriors and slow their movements. However, it was a pity that this murderous aura was useless against Gray and Sophia. On the battlefield, the two of them had encountered countless murderous auras from level 2 Desolation level experts. They had long been immune to this level of murderous aura. Whoosh! Sophia's figure flashed and turned into a blue phantom. She quickly approached the man in the yellow battle suit and stabbed her long spear at his throat. Gray, on the other hand, was holding a black greatsword. Although his speed was not as fast as Sophia's, he carried a heavy feeling like an armored vehicle as he rushed toward the man in the yellow battle suit. Whoosh! 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 Facing Sophia, who was rushing toward him, the man in the yellow battle suit snorted coldly. A large number of plant vines rushed out, covering the sky and turning the sky green. They quickly attacked Sophia. Sophia could only dodge one after another, avoiding the sharp plant vines. The ground was riddled with holes and the houses were swept down by the vines. For a moment, even with Sophia's speed, it was difficult for her to get close to the man in the yellow battle suit. However, the man in the yellow battle suit focused on Sophia, giving Gray a chance. Puff! A long river of black mist gushed out and attacked the man in the yellow battle armor with unstoppable momentum. Whoosh! 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 The man in the yellow battle suit was indeed a level 2 Desolation level blood warrior. He used his plant ability to attack Sophia, making it difficult for Sophia to get close. At the same time, he infused his long spear with blood power. The spear was covered in a green color. A large number of wind blades burst out, tearing the long river of black mist apart and attacking Gray. Gotcha! 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 Gray brandished the black greatsword in his hand, shattering the oncoming wind blades. Suddenly, in his eyes, a long spear with wind blades on the tip of the spear was stabbing toward him. While Gray was blocking the wind blades, the man in the yellow battle suit had closed in on Gray. Clang! Gray blocked the incoming long spear with his sword. However, because his combat strength was not as strong as the man, he was forced to retreat. The man in the yellow battlesuit sneered. He took a few steps forward and caught up with Gray. The long spear with wind blades stabbed toward Gray's heart. There's still a gap, Gray sighed inwardly as he watched the cyan spearhead grow larger and larger in his line of sight. He could feel the sharp and painful aura of the spearhead scraping against his face. There was still a big gap between him and a level 2 desolation level blood warrior. Even with Sophia's help, it was still difficult for him to be the opponent's opponent. Whoosh! A pattern on the purple ring was activated. The next moment, a man in ordinary clothes appeared in front of him. His eyes looked rather lifeless, and there was a sword hanging from his waist. Clang! The sword at his waist was unsheathed. He slashed with the sword and collided with the tip of the green spear. Puff! With a sharp sound, the wind blades on the tip of the green spear were all shattered. The spear hit the man in the yellow battlesuit. The man in the yellow battlesuit spat out blood and flew backward. Chapter 449. Lord Stanley, you're... Lord Stanley? He fell heavily to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Using his spear as a support, the man in yellow struggled to stand up. He looked at the man standing in front of Gray in shock. The man looked like he was in his 40s or 50s, but he also looked like he was in his 80s or 90s. It was difficult to tell his age from his appearance. The man was thin, but his limbs were long and strong. He exuded a faint aura that made him look extremely dangerous. However, his eyes were dull and lifeless. They were completely stupefied and lacked a kind of intelligence. How can this be? Lord Stanley, isn't he dead? How can he be here? On the other side, Brady Randolph was also shocked. His eyes were wide open as he stared at the man in front of Gray. Shocking, too shocking. The man who was supposed to be dead had appeared in front of them. Judging from the man's attack, he was standing opposite of them. This unforeseen event shocked him too much, and he almost didn't dare to believe his eyes. How can this be? Isn't he dead? He's definitely dead. I saw it with my own eyes. But how can he be here? He was not the only one. Even the people from the Purple Moon Kingdom who came to besiege the outpost of the Flame Kingdom were shocked. Many of them had seen the 2 king-level experts from the Jewel Kingdom besieging the king-level expert from the Flame Kingdom. They had also seen the Flame Kingdom's king-level expert being killed with their own eyes. Now that the king-level expert had appeared again, many of them could not help but feel a chill down their spines as if they had seen a ghost. This man can't be revived. Gray must have used his corpse control ability on him. His corpse control ability can even control the corpse of a king-level expert. Only Sophia and the level 2 Desolation level Elder from the Purple Moon Kingdom could guess the reason. They knew that Gray had the bloodline of the corpse-haired ape and could control corpses. Impossible, Lord Stanley can't be alive. Being stared at by the sword-wielding man, the man in yellow armor felt his scalp go numb, cold sweat trickling down his forehead. However, he was a level 2 Desolation level blood warrior after all. His mental fortitude was extremely strong. He forced himself to calm down and observed the man with the sword. His eyes are glazed over, and he actually made a move against me. It's as if he's being controlled. Soon, he discovered something strange and noticed the abnormality. The ability to control corpses. Yes, it's the ability to control corpses. A thought flashed through his mind, and he suddenly remembered a piece of information about Gray that he had received before. According to the information, Gray Fergus had a magical weapon with the ability to control corpses. Now, seeing the appearance of the man with the sword, he finally remembered. You dare to desecrate Lord Stanley's corpse. After understanding this, his eyes spat fire and he became extremely angry. The corpse of a king-level master, who enjoyed the highest level of treatment wherever he went, had actually been controlled by someone else and turned into a tool for battle. This was an absolute humiliation. He's someone that the Flame Kingdom needs to respect, not someone that I need to respect. Gray sneered. He did not have any psychological burden when it came to controlling the opponent's corpse to battle. He was not a pedantic person. Stanley Grinton was his enemy when he was alive. He had once chased after them and almost caused them to fall into a desperate situation. He did not think that it was too much to do this to an enemy. "I'm going to kill you." The man in yellow armor's eyes were filled with killing intent as he rushed towards Gray angrily. Green wind blades were attached to the spear in his hand, emitting an extremely sharp aura. Scratches appeared on the surrounding ground. Gray did not move, but Stanley Grinton, who was in front of him, moved. In an instant, he rushed out like a phantom and was already close to the man in yellow armor. The sword in his hand was like a phantom that slashed across. Poof! The man in yellow armor was suddenly sent flying. A deep wound appeared on his chest, and one could vaguely see his bones with blood. A large amount of blood seeped out of his wound like an unstoppable tap. Although he had lost his blood beast ability and was only left with his physical strength, he was still a king stage expert when he was alive. Even if he was only left with his physical strength, it was still comparable to a level 3 desolation level. The man in yellow armor's level 2 desolation level strength was not enough at this moment. With his spear on the ground, the man in yellow armor covered the wound on his chest and looked at Gray angrily. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 10 huge vines that were half a meter thick rose from the ground, whistling. The strong wind caused the sand and stones on the ground to fly as they smashed towards Gray. Poof, poof, poof. Stanley Grinton swung his sword quickly, and the huge vines that were attacking Gray were cut apart like tofu. The vines fell heavily to the ground, and several houses in the stockade were directly smashed down. After cutting off all the attacking vines, Stanley Grinton flashed. With his terrifying speed, he once again approached the man in yellow armor and stabbed his sword towards the man's heart. "Ah!" the man in yellow armor roared. His eyes flashed with ruthlessness, and the blood skill that he had long prepared suddenly exploded. Suddenly, a large number of plant thorns emerged from his body. Each of them was several meters long and stronger than metal. Poof! Stanley Grinton, who bore the brunt of the attack, was immediately pierced by more than 10 thorns. His clothes were pierced, and his body that was approaching the man in yellow armor suddenly stopped. However, he was still a king stage expert when he was alive. Even if he was not a king stage expert who specialized in defense, his physical defense was still extremely strong compared to a desolation level expert. In addition, he had been metallized by Gray's metallization ability. His physical body was far stronger than when he was alive. The sharp thorns pierced his body as if they were piercing an immortal metal. Not a single wound was left on his body. Crack! He waved the sword in his hand, and the thorns that pierced his body were suddenly cut off. Then, he waved the sword continuously, cutting off all the thorns on the man in yellow armor. He then slashed the man in yellow armor's throat. Because he had used his blood skill, the man in yellow armor who was already injured tried hard to dodge, but it was too late. Poof! The sword slashed through his throat, causing blood to spurt out. He fell down with unwillingness in his eyes. Boom! On the other side, although Brady Randolph was fighting with the level 2 desolation level old man from the Purple Moon Kingdom, his eyes were fixed on Gray and the man in yellow armor. When he saw that the man in yellow armor was easily killed, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his heart was filled with shock. A huge blue lightning bolt appeared and turned into a giant tree with bare leaves that was dozens of meters long. It attacked the level 2 desolation level old man from the Purple Moon Kingdom, while Brady himself turned around and fled. However, in the next moment, he forcefully stopped running forward. His face was filled with shock, and there was even cold sweat on his forehead. In front of him, a tall and thin figure with a long sword suddenly appeared and blocked his way. The figure's emotionless eyes locked onto him like a wild beast. "Didn't you want to kill me? Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Gray walked over and looked at Brady Randolph with a mocking gaze. The Flame Kingdom won't let you go for desecrating Sir Stanley's body. Brady Randolph didn't beg for mercy, as he knew that Gray would never let him go. He stared at Gray coldly. If I don't use my ability to control his body, will the Flame Kingdom let me go? Gray sneered in disdain. Putting aside the fact that he had killed Curtis Flame, a member of the Flame Kingdom's royal family, the Flame Kingdom wouldn't let him go given the potential he had shown. In that case, he might as well use the Flame Kingdom's body to fight against the Flame Kingdom. No. Brady Randolph's eyes were filled with fervor. Not only will you die, but the three kingdoms will be destroyed as well. You overestimate the Flame Kingdom. Although the Flame Kingdom is powerful, it's impossible for them to destroy the three kingdoms. Hearing Brady Randolph's arrogant words, the level 2 desolate level elder from the Purple Moon Kingdom said in disdain. Humph, the power of the Flame Kingdom is not something you can imagine. Just you wait, you will all die in the near future. As soon as Brady Randolph finished his words, a large amount of lightning suddenly bloomed around him and turned into a sea of lightning. With a destructive power that exceeded the level 2 desolate level, the lightning violently attacked Stanley Grinton and the level 2 desolate level elder from the Purple Moon Kingdom. Brady Randolph grunted and quickly ran in a direction where no one was around. Crackle! Facing the incoming lightning, the level 2 desolate level elder from the Purple Moon Kingdom stepped back and defended himself seriously. Under the control of Gray, Stanley Grinton didn't dodge at all. Instead, he ran straight into the lightning. Boom! The terrifying lightning struck him and wreaked havoc on his body, but it didn't leave a single wound on him. He was covered in a silvery white color and quickly chased after Brady Randolph, who was escaping. Puff! He caught up with Brady Randolph and stabbed his longsword into his back. It pierced through his heart and came out from his chest. Patter! Brady Randolph ran forward a few steps before finally collapsing. His blood dyed the ground under him red. Nice kill. Dead, this poisonous snake is dead. Looking at the dead body of their opponent, the people from the Purple Moon Kingdom felt a sense of relief. Some of the girls whose friends had been assassinated by the Flame Teeth even had tears in their eyes. Many people looked at Gray in shock. They hadn't expected Gray to have such a powerful technique. He was able to manipulate the corpses of kings to fight, and he was able to turn the king's combat power into his own. In the eyes of the man in the yellow battlesuit from the Flame Kingdom, Gray's ability to control a corpse was disrespectful to a king-level expert. However, they didn't think so. Respect a king-level expert who had almost killed them? Seeing that Gray was able to control the corpse of a king-level expert and use it in battle, they felt like they had vented their anger. A few days later, Gray and the others returned to the Jewel Kingdom's Imperial City. The remaining members of the Flame Teeth, who knew about their whereabouts, had all been killed. The hunt for the Flame Teeth had come to an end, but the impact of this incident didn't end there. The Jewel Kingdom, the Purple Moon Kingdom, and the Scarlet Kingdom were all furious when they heard the news. They gave out orders for revenge one after another. There was even news that the three kingdoms were preparing to form a team of king-level experts to demand an explanation from the Flame Kingdom. Perhaps a battle that would shake the entire continent would happen soon. It wasn't hard to imagine how furious the three kingdoms were. The assassination this time had crossed the bottom line of the three kingdoms. The Jewel Kingdom, the Purple Moon Kingdom, and the Scarlet Kingdom were completely enraged. The three kingdoms had formed a loose alliance under the pressure of the Flame Kingdom. Chapter 450. In a courtyard of the Jewel Kingdom's palace, Gray and a group of young people were sitting. Some of them had just returned from hunting down the remaining members of the Blaze Fong, and there were still traces of murderous aura lingering on their bodies. Some of them had been recuperating in the palace due to their severe injuries. Brady Randolph is dead? Really? That's great. That bastard is finally dead. He got off too easy. If it were up to me, I'd cut him into pieces and let him suffer for 7 days and 7 nights before killing him. After learning that Brady Randolph had been killed, many of them looked excited and joyful. They hated the culprit who had caused the death of their companions. Now that they knew that Brady was dead, they could not help but feel excited and delighted. Who killed him? Someone asked curiously. It's Master Jerome, Sophia said. Jerome Violet was the leader of Gray's team, who was in Level 2 Desolation level. It's Master Jerome. Although Brady Randolph was a bastard, he was in Level 2 Desolation level. Since Master Jerome could kill him, he must be close to Level 3 Desolation level. After knowing that Jerome Violet had killed Brady Randolph, some of the young people were in awe. However, they did not notice that some of them, such as Zeloyang and Jessia, were looking at Gray. Only they knew that it was not Jerome Violet who had killed Brady Randolph, but Gray. They had said that it was Jerome Violet for Gray's safety. Those who were present at the scene had been ordered to keep their mouths shut by the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. Even now, they could not help but feel that it was unreal. On the battlefield a few months ago, Gray's battle with the Desolation Blood Warriors had not been easy. He had been injured in almost every battle with Curtis Flame. It was not until the last battle that he had the strength to kill the Desolation Blood Warriors. Even so, he had paid a heavy price. But now, he could easily kill a Level 2 Desolation Blood Warrior. His growth rate could only be described as terrifying. Your Highness Francis, I heard that the Purple Moon Kingdom, the Gem Kingdom, and the Scarlet Kingdom are forming a king-level team to attack the Flame Kingdom. Is that true? Zeloyang looked at Francis and asked. It's true. This time, the Flame Kingdom must give us an explanation. Francis nodded affirmatively, and his voice was resolute and decisive. He had a head of purple hair and a handsome face. After this incident, he seemed to have matured a lot, and the aura of a superior on his body gradually became stronger. He participated in the discussions with the higher-ups of the Gem Kingdom and the Scarlet Kingdom. That's great. This time, we'll definitely teach the Raging Flames Kingdom a lesson. A nobleman's face was filled with hatred. One of his childhood playmates had died in this assassination attempt. Although the Raging Flame Kingdom is powerful, I don't believe that it can withstand the combined might of our 3 kingdoms. A heavily injured noble clenched his teeth. He had almost died in this assassination attempt. Gray remained silent. He did not express his opinion. Logically speaking, no matter how powerful the Fire Kingdom was, it would be impossible for them to resist the combined might of the 3 kingdoms. However, he had a vague feeling that there would be a change in the situation. Since the Flame Kingdom dared to attack the younger generation of the 3 kingdoms, they must be prepared for the 3 kingdoms' revenge. They probably had a trump card that could resist the 3 kingdoms. Also, Brady Randolph's words before he died gave him a bad feeling. Brady's confidence in the Flame Kingdom was not blind. Brady must know something. Unfortunately, even if he interrogated him, Brady would not say anything. He did not have the ability to read his memories. 2 days later, people from the Purple Moon Kingdom arrived. 4 king-level masters came from the Purple Moon Kingdom to the Jewel Kingdom. 3 of them were from the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family, while the other was from the Kenneth family. Including the king-level master from the royal family, Fitch Violet, who had been here since the beginning, the Purple Moon Kingdom would send out 5 king-level masters to attack the Flame Kingdom. Although it was not all the king-level masters from the Purple Moon Kingdom, it was more than half of them. It was easy to imagine how much importance the Purple Moon Kingdom placed on this assassination. Of course, there were probably other considerations as well. The assassination attempt by the Flaming Fang was probably just the fuse. However, it was definitely not the entire reason behind it. Although the death of a few genius disciples who had yet to mature had indeed caused the Purple Moon Kingdom to be furious, they did not have the qualifications to cause such a huge commotion. As for what kind of considerations they had, it was likely that only those in power would know. In a magnificent hall, Gray and the other young nobles met the 4 king-level masters. Among the 4, there was a female king-level master named Melanie Violet. She was an elder of the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. She looked like a middle-aged woman, and her real age should be more than that. Similar to the Jewel Kingdom's female king-level master, Greta Austin, she should be a person who paid great attention to maintaining her appearance. Indeed, it was natural for women to love beauty. Other than her, there were 3 other people. One of them was called Chapman Violet. He belonged to the Purple Moon Kingdom's royal family. He was a man with a slightly thin appearance and strong muscles all over his body. Another one was called Baird Kenneth. He was an elder with a sense of vicissitudes in his eyes. He came from the Kenneth family, a Duke family. He was the only remaining king-level master among the 3 Duke families in the Purple Moon Kingdom. It was also because of his existence that the Kenneth family was able to suppress the other 2 Duke families and become the strongest among the 3 Duke families. It was not difficult to see the importance of a king-level master to a family. Among the 3, the last one was an elder named Dyphony Violet. The elder's figure was slightly stooped and his face looked extremely old. The wrinkles on his face were like the wrinkles on an old tree. He looked quite old. Lord Dyphony? Could it be him? Beside Gray, Zeroing looked at the elder with a trace of doubt in his eyes. He seemed to have thought of something but was not sure. What's wrong? Gray looked at Zeroing, puzzled. According to the records, the first patriarch of the Sidney family seemed to have met Lord Dyphony. Judging from the time, Lord Dyphony is very likely to be more than 400 years old. Zeroing took a deep breath and said, "More than 400 years old? Are you sure?" Gray suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air, a trace of shock in his eyes. A king-level warrior's average lifespan was about 300 years without injury or illness. However, this did not mean that there were no king-level warriors whose lifespan exceeded this number. The Purple Thunder King, the owner of the King's Tomb that Gray had previously investigated, was a king-level master who had lived for more than 400 years. There were 2 ways for a king-level warrior to increase their lifespan. One was to consume precious magic plants that could extend their lifespan. The other was to increase their own level. At the king level, every time a king-level warrior completed a cycle of blood cultivation, their body would undergo a metamorphosis and their lifespan would increase accordingly. If this Dyphony Violet had consumed precious magic plants that could extend his lifespan, it would be fine. However, if he had relied on his own level to live to such an old age, then his strength would be extremely terrifying. It was very likely that he was a peak existence who had undergone 3 metamorphoses. After undergoing 3 metamorphoses, he was only 1 level away from the magic light level, which was above the king level. There was no doubt that he was the strongest king level. If king-level warriors were said to be the strongest group of people on this continent, then a king-level existence who had undergone 3 metamorphoses would be one of the strongest people on this continent. Guessing that the other party was such an existence, Gray and Zeroing could not hide their shock. Whoosh! Suddenly, a pair of old but wise eyes fell on Gray and Zeroing. Dyphony Violet was looking at the 2 of them. As a king-level master, his senses were extremely sharp. Gray and Zeroing's gazes lingered on each other for a few seconds, and they were immediately detected by the other party. Both of them felt a chill in their hearts and respectfully bowed to the other party. Beside the old man, Sophia was wearing a long purple dress. Her skin was as white as snow, and her figure was slender and graceful. When she saw the old man looking at Gray and Zeroing, she smiled slightly and whispered a few words to the old man. Hearing Sophia's words, the old man's gaze had a strange look. He paused on Gray for a moment and then nodded. A day later, king-level masters from the Scarlet Kingdom arrived. The situation was similar to that of the Purple Moon Kingdom. They also had 4 king-level masters, and their leader was also suspected to have undergone 3 metamorphoses. In the end, including the 6 king-level masters from the Jewel Kingdom, a total of 16 king-level masters set off for the Flame Kingdom. Gray and the other youths from the 3 kingdoms were also arranged to accompany them. Clearly, this was an opportunity for the younger generation to broaden their horizons. A few days later, the teams from the 3 kingdoms arrived at the border of the Jewel Kingdom, near the Flame Kingdom's border. This was a hilly terrain. The hills varied in height from a few hundred meters. They were verdant, and there were many shrubs growing on them. In some places, the sides of the hills were extremely steep. There were obvious signs of excavation. These were signs of gemstone mining. The group climbed up a hill. In the distance, on a hill a few miles away, a group of people appeared. There were old men and young men. Among them, Gray even saw a few familiar faces. Among these familiar faces, there was a golden-haired young man. The young man was tall and handsome, like a crane in a flock of chickens. He was the second prince of the Flame Kingdom, Nicholas Blaze. Gray looked at the group of elders. There were more than 10 of them, and each of them had a deep aura. Their bodies emitted a dangerous aura. When his gaze landed on one of them, he couldn't help but pause. He didn't move his gaze away for a long time. A name appeared in his heart. King of Assassins. Chapter 451. It was a man dressed in black. He wore a black night suit with a black cloak on the outside. He also had a pair of black metal claws on his hand. His entire body was black, as if he would disappear into the shadows at any time. This was the King of Assassins that Gray had seen once in Mercenary City. He was also the culprit who had almost destroyed the Marquis family in Sydney. Gray looked at Zero worriedly. He saw that Zero was breathing heavily, and his eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the King of Assassins. He sighed. He didn't know what to say. At a time like this, any consolation would be useless. People who hadn't experienced that kind of pain couldn't truly understand how Zero felt. You've crossed the line. Among the group of people with powerful auras, there was an elder. He was tall and strong. Although he was not young, his back was extremely straight, and he exuded a strong sense of majesty. The group of people seemed to regard him as their leader. He looked at the 3 king-level cultivators and said, "Let's go." "Humph, pretentious. Blair, we haven't seen each other for so many years, and you still like to put on airs. Don't you know why we're here in the Flame Kingdom?" One of the 3 king-level fighters spoke. It was a tall and thin elder. He had a disdainful look on his face as he scolded coldly. He came from the Scarlet Kingdom, and his name was Lennon Scarlet. He was the Scarlet Kingdom's existence that was suspected to have reached the 3rd metamorphosis. The Flame Kingdom has already lost a king-level fighter. What else do you want? Blair Blaze spoke. Hand over all the people who participated in this. An old woman with white hair spoke. She came from the royal family of the Jewel Kingdom, and her name was Jennifer Austin. She was the leader of the 6 king-level fighters from the Jewel Kingdom. Impossible. Blair Blaze decisively refused. This time, not only were there many king-level fighters from the Flame Kingdom participating in the assassination of the younger generation of the 3 kingdoms, but there were also 4 king-level fighters. One of them was already dead, and the Flame Kingdom couldn't hand over the other 3. It's not up to you. The Purple Moon Kingdom's king-class expert, Diphony Violet, snorted coldly. His face was old, but his voice was full of vigor and dominance. It seems that you are determined to fight with the Kingdom of Raging Flames. Blair Blaze's voice turned cold. You want to let it go just like that? Dream on. Everyone who participates will die. Among the Jewel Kingdom's king-level powerhouses, a burly man opened his eyes wide and snorted coldly. With a single step, he was already dozens of meters away from the Jewel Kingdom. In just a few moments, he was only a kilometer away from the Jewel Kingdom. He held a huge yellow battle-axe in his hand and attacked furiously. Yellow light bloomed on the battle-axe as it flew in the direction of the Jewel Kingdom. Whoosh! A huge yellow light crashed down like a huge yellow waterfall that was hundreds of meters long, crashing towards the Jewel Kingdom's group. One of the prodigies of his family, the tall young man who once fought against Hylia Violet and had the strength of a wild blood warrior, had died in the ambush of the Blaze Kingdom. This was a disciple who had the potential to become a king-class warrior. Originally, he was looking forward to having 2 king-class powerhouses in his family and seeing his family become extremely prosperous. But now, he had died just like that. One could imagine the anger in his heart. If you want to fight, then let's fight. The Flame Kingdom is not afraid of you. From the Flame Kingdom, a man in black and red battle armor stepped out. He held an orange long sword in his hand. Orange flames rushed into the sky like a rainbow and collided with the yellow waterfall. Boom! A terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. Gales raged within a radius of 1 kilometer. Many trees were blown down by the gales. Even Gray and the others, who were several kilometers away, could not help but feel the gales brushing against their faces. The two quickly approached each other and quickly exchanged blows in the sky. Rumble, 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 bang! After dozens of blows, the burly man from the Jewel Kingdom chopped down with his axe on the man in black and red battle armor. The man in black and red battle armor was stained with blood. He flew backward like a cannonball and landed heavily on the ground, creating a crater that was dozens of meters in diameter. Go to hell! The burly man from the Jewel Kingdom was overflowing with murderous intent. He chopped down with his axe, and a yellow light like a yellow waterfall hit the man in black and red battle armor lying on the ground. Boom! From the Flame Kingdom, a woman in blue battle armor attacked. A real waterfall appeared and collided with the yellow light, blocking it. Then, the man in black and red battle armor stood up again and joined forces with her. Immediately, the burly man from the Jewel Kingdom was injured and flew backward. Trying to compete with numbers? Several king-level experts from the Purple Moon, Jewel, and Scarlet Kingdoms rushed out and attacked the two from the Flame Kingdom. Seeing this, more than 10 king-level experts from the Flame Kingdom also rushed out. Boom! 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 In the sky, more than 20 king-level experts were fighting. The dazzling power of the blood fiends dyed the sky in a variety of colors. Within a few kilometers it was like the end of the world. There were craters that were the size of small mountains caused by meteorite. There were raging flames that could not be extinguished. The ground was covered in ice and snow. There were also scorched marks of lightning strikes. Even standing a few kilometers away, Gray and the others could not help but be affected. A huge fireball smashed toward them like a burning meteorite. The air was torn apart and scorching heat waves swept across. Before it even got close, the terrifying heat had already hit them. Gray and the others of the younger generation felt as if they were in a sauna. They could not help but sweat and subconsciously retreat. A king-level expert from the Scarlet Kingdom, who was suspected to have undergone 3 metamorphoses, attacked. A crimson thunderbolt crackled and instantly extinguished the huge fireball. Then, he ordered the younger generation of the 3 kingdoms. Everyone, step back. Gray and the others did not dare to hesitate. They retreated several kilometers before stopping. They climbed up a hill and looked at the battle in the distance. In the distance, where the explosions were the most concentrated, several hills had collapsed and been razed to the ground. In some places, the ground was deeply sunken and even underground water was seeping out. What terrifying power! Jessica was a little flabbergasted. Although there was also a battle between king-level experts on the night of the Flame Tooth's attack, both sides had deliberately stayed away from the castle. Moreover, she was also under attack by the Flame Tooth and was busy running for her life. She did not have the energy to pay attention to that battle. This was the first time she had witnessed a battle between king-level experts. No wonder king-level experts don't appear on the battlefield. A look of realization appeared on her face. The gap between king-level experts and those below was like a chasm. The gap between the two could not be filled by numbers. If king-level experts appeared on the battlefield, the most likely outcome would be that everyone below the king level on both sides would die in the aftermath of the battle. Great-grandfather is ready to attack. Lars Scarlet stared unblinkingly at the figure of a king-level expert in the distance. It was a tall and thin old man. He was the one who had blocked the aftermath of the king-level expert's battle for them. He was suspected to be a thrice metamorphosed king-level expert. Gray and the others could not help but look at this old man. They had doubts in their hearts. Was this old man a thrice metamorphosed king-level expert? How strong was a thrice metamorphosed king-level expert? Whoosh! A king-level expert from the Flame Kingdom suddenly spat out blood and flew backward. He crashed heavily into the ground, creating a huge crater with a diameter of dozens of meters. And in his original position, the thrice metamorphosed king-level expert from the Scarlet Kingdom appeared. So fast! The younger generation of the three kingdoms could not help but exclaim. Their faces were full of shock and astonishment. Fast, it was too fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, the old man had already appeared in the center of the battlefield. He had severely injured a king-level expert from the Flame Kingdom. During the process, Gray and the others did not even see how the old man moved. It was as if he had teleported. There's no way we can dodge. Gray's pupils shrank. He was sure that if he stood in front of this old man, even if he used teleportation, he would not be able to escape. Although teleportation could allow one to move 1,000 miles away, there was a process when it was activated. It could not be completed in an instant. Although this period of time was extremely short, the old man definitely had enough time to make a move against him. This speed, there's no mistaking it. He has indeed reached thrice metamorphosed. Sophia, who was beside Gray, said with certainty. Born in the royal family, her vision was naturally extraordinary. She had an extremely clear understanding of the several levels of king-level expert. She immediately determined the specific strength level of this king-level expert from the Scarlet Kingdom. Lennon Scarlet. A furious roar rang out from the Flame Kingdom's king-level expert. A golden-haired old man appeared beside the Scarlet Kingdom's thrice-metamorphosed king-level expert at a speed not inferior to his. Blazing golden flames burned on his long spear. The spear pierced straight at the thrice-metamorphosed king-level expert from the Scarlet Kingdom. Boom! The thrice-metamorphosed king-level expert from the Scarlet Kingdom wielded a giant sword entwined with scarlet lightning. He did not retreat in the slightest. Boom! A violent explosion erupted. Even at such a distance, Gray and the others' ears were still buzzing. They were almost deaf. A terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. The king-level experts closer to the two were actually sent flying by this shockwave. On the ground more than 100 meters away from them, trees were uprooted by this shockwave. Soil and stones were splashed everywhere. A barren area with a diameter of several miles appeared. Primo Blaze, you have indeed reached thrice metamorphosed. Aren't you the same? The thrice metamorphosed king-level expert from the Scarlet Kingdom, Lennon Scarlet, and the thrice metamorphosed king-level expert from the Flame Kingdom, Primo Blaze, stared at each other from hundreds of meters away. Just the shockwave alone was enough to send other king-level experts flying. For them, this was only the first time they had tested each other. In the next moment, the two crossed hundreds of meters in an instant and clashed again. The terrifying shockwave once again affected many king-level experts and sent them flying. Chapter 452. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, crimson lightning and golden flames collided one after another, erupting into deafening sounds. Terrifying shockwaves surged out one after another. Gray and the others retreated another 2 miles before the buzzing in their heads subsided. Only then did they feel better. Lennon Scarlet and Primo Flame, who had reached the third metamorphosis, became the center of the battle. The other king-level experts had to stay away from the two of them. Even if they were king-level experts, they would definitely be injured if they were hit by the shockwaves of the battle. This was the combat power of a thrice metamorphosis king-level expert, the top expert among king-level experts. It's our turn. The suspected thrice metamorphosis king-level expert from the Purple Moon Kingdom, Typhony Violet, and the Jewel Kingdom's king-level expert, Jennifer Austin, looked at each other and rushed towards the battlefield. Whoosh! They appeared not far from Lennon Scarlet and Primo Flame. The other king-level experts avoided the two of them, but they deliberately approached them. The speed they displayed was not slower than Lennon Scarlet and Primo Flame. If there were no surprises, the two of them should also be thrice metamorphosis king-level experts. Whoosh! At this moment, behind the Flame Kingdom, a person also appeared on the battlefield in an instant. This was an old man with a tall and straight posture. He was the leader of the Flame Kingdom's king-level experts, Blair Blaze. To be able to become the leader of the Flame Kingdom's king-level experts, his strength was unquestionable. He must also be a thrice metamorphosis king-level expert. Blair, you actually sent the Blaze Fong to kill the younger generation of our three kingdoms. The Flame Kingdom must pay the price for this. Jennifer Austin looked coldly at Blair Blaze and said, "Pay the price? Impossible, the three of you are not qualified." Even if he was facing two king-level experts of the same realm, Blair Blaze was still full of momentum and his words were full of dominance. "Blair, you are too arrogant." Typhony Violet snorted. "Arrogant? I don't think so," Blair Blaze said coldly. "Jennifer and Lennon have both completed their third metamorphosis. Is this the reason why your three kingdoms have the confidence to go against my Flame Kingdom? Although Primo Blaze has also become a thrice-transformed king-level warrior, you only have two in the Flame Kingdom. I don't believe that you can find a third thrice-transformed king-level warrior in the Flame Kingdom," Jennifer Austin said coldly. "Why would we need a third thrice metamorphosis king-class warrior to deal with you?" Blair Blaze said with his hands behind his back. "Both of us are thrice metamorphosed king-class warriors. Could it be that you want to fight against the two of us?" Typhony Violet said coldly. Over the years, although the three kingdoms had formed an alliance, they still couldn't do anything to the Flame Kingdom. On one hand, the three kingdoms were wary of each other. They were afraid that their kingdom would lose too much strength and give the other two kingdoms an opportunity to take advantage of them. On the other hand, although he and Blair Blaze were thrice-transformed king-level experts, Blair Blaze had walked on this path for a longer time than him and was stronger than him. Now that Jennifer Austin and Lennon Scarlet had both become thrice-transformed king-level experts, and the Flame Kingdom had attacked the younger generation of the three kingdoms, the three kingdoms took this opportunity to test the Flame Kingdom. In the distance, the younger generation of the three kingdoms looked at the three of them and couldn't help but discuss. Lord Typhony and Lord Jennifer are thrice-transformed king-level experts. Blair Blaze is definitely not their match. A young man from the Jewel Kingdom said excitedly. How dare they assassinate the younger generation of the three kingdoms? This time, we must make the Flame Kingdom pay the price. A young man from the Purple Moon Kingdom had a face full of hatred. It would be great if we could kill Blair Blaze here. A young man from the Scarlet Kingdom was full of anticipation. Only a few people felt that something was wrong. Blair Blaze was too calm. It's not normal. It feels like Blair Blaze is full of confidence. Gem Queen Glinway Austin's black hair was as black as ink, and her diamond-shaped red gemstone brows were slightly furrowed. Other than Primo Flame having completed thrice transformed, what other trump cards does the Flame Kingdom have? The Scarlet Prince, Lars Scarlet, was puzzled. Before Brady Randolph died, he said that the three kingdoms would be destroyed by the Flame Kingdom. From his tone, it didn't seem like he was bluffing. Sophia's delicate face was flawless as she spoke in a low voice. Could the Flame Kingdom have a gold weapon that surpasses silver? Gray's black hair was blown by the wind caused by the battle in the distance. He furrowed his brows and guessed. Silver-level magic weapons weren't the peak of magic weapons. According to what Gray knew, there was a weapon of a higher level than silver-level magic weapons, and that was a gold weapon. According to the records, that was an extremely powerful magic weapon with terrifying power. If it was in the hands of a thrice-transformed king-level expert, it could even allow the king-level expert to break through the bottleneck between king-level and magic light level and possess the power of magic light level. Impossible. There were only a few magic weapons of that level during the Empire's era. If the Flame Kingdom had them, the three kingdoms would have been destroyed long ago. Francis shook his head. Just as Gray and the others were still talking, the battle between Diphone Violet, Jennifer Austin, and Blair Blaze broke out. Diphone Violet held a blue spear that was covered with complicated purple patterns. It absorbed Diphone Violet's Blood Fiend ability and enhanced Diphone Violet's Blood Fiend ability. With a thrust of the spear, the enhanced purple flames swept out and covered the sky. It was like a purple cloud of fire that attacked Blair Blaze. Jennifer Austin held a white, crystal-like battle axe. The surface of the crystal was covered with mysterious earthy yellow patterns. The Blood Fiend ability that was also enhanced by the battle axe was released. Countless meteorites gathered together and turned into a meteorite group that was hundreds of meters wide, crushing toward Blair Blaze. Blair Raging Flame held a black spear in his hand. The spear was covered with golden lines. Suddenly, with the spear as the center, a dazzling golden light shone out, as if a sun was blooming. Rumble, the purple cloud of fire, the meteorite group that was hundreds of meters wide, and the dazzling golden sun collided, releasing purple, earthy yellow, and golden rays of light. In the next moment, a terrifying shock wave rippled and swept out in all directions. More than 10 king-level experts who were fighting were affected. Some of them vomited blood and were sent flying. Several hills were swept by the shockwave and turned into powder on the spot. A lake was swept. The lake water evaporated and dried up on the spot. All the plants were silently crushed. The birds and beasts in the forest had no time to escape and were turned into a bloody pulp. With the explosion as the center, there was not a single trace of green in the radius of a few miles. Under such a violent shockwave, Diphone Violet, Jennifer Austin, and Blair Blaze went against the shockwave and rushed toward each other. A purple figure, an earthy yellow figure, and a golden figure were rapidly colliding and separating. The ability of the three colors transformed into all kinds of shape. Sometimes it was a giant beast, sometimes it was a mountain, and sometimes it was a giant claw. They collided from time to time. One terrifying ripple after another was like water in a pond that had been disturbed. In a few breaths of time, the three had already exchanged hundreds of blows. No, something's wrong. Blair Blaze actually blocked the combined attack of Lord Diphone and Lord Jennifer by himself. What's going on? All three of them are thrice metamorphosis king-level experts. How can Blair Blaze block Lord Diphone and Lord Jennifer by himself? The younger generation of the three kingdoms were all stunned and doubtful. As for Gray and the few others who had a bad premonition, their expressions changed slightly. Their bad premonition had come true. Although the Flame Kingdom did not have a third thrice metamorphosis king-level expert, Blair Blaze had displayed astonishing combat strength. He actually blocked the attacks of 2 thrice metamorphosis king-level experts by himself. Could it be that Blair Blaze has already reached the magic light level, or does he really have a gold weapon in his hands? Thinking of the conjecture that Gray had raised before, some of the young nobles were bewildered. No, if that's really the case, Lord Diphone and Lord Jennifer would have been defeated long ago. Gem Queen Glinway Austin frowned. She was certain that Blair Blaze had not reached the magic light level, nor did he have a gold weapon in his hands. Otherwise, Diphone Violet and Jennifer Austin would have been defeated long ago. Regardless of whether he was at the magic light level or had a gold weapon, his combat strength would definitely reach the magic light level. She did not know much about the magic light level. She had only seen descriptions of it in books from the Empire's era. However, she was certain that a person with magic light level combat strength definitely had the strength to easily wipe out 2 thrice metamorphosis king level experts. Could it be that the magic weapon in his hands is not a complete gold weapon, but a damaged one? Lars guessed. Excessive combat or improper preservation could lead to damage to a magic weapon. Such damaged magic weapons would sometimes have their power reduced by a level. Sometimes their power would be reduced by half, but they would still have most of their power. Blair Blaze had displayed combat strength that exceeded that of a thrice metamorphosis king level warrior, but was not at the magic light level. He could not help but suspect that the magic weapon in his opponent's hands was a damaged gold weapon. If it's really a damaged one, it's very possible. Scarlet Prince Lars' conjecture was reasonable. Many people felt that it was very likely, but Gray and some of the young nobles of the Purple Moon Kingdom could not help but look at Francis. The scene before them gave them a sense of déjà vu. Sure enough, Francis also had the same feeling, and he said, "Don't worry. That's possible, but there's another possibility, and it seems to me that it's more likely." Chapter 453. How is that possible? All the youngsters looked at Francis. Blair Blaze shouldn't be at the magic light level, but he's not far from the magic light level, Francis said as he stared at the golden figure fighting in the distance. Your Highness Francis, do you have any basis for saying that? The Gem Queen, Glinway Austin, looked at Francis and asked. In fact, I've encountered a similar battle before, Francis said. You have? Lars looked at Francis curiously. Yes. Francis nodded. It was during the battle with the Flame Kingdom. The Flame Kingdom's second prince, Niklos Blaze, blocked my combined attack with the Desolate level Blood Fiend by himself. At this point, he looked at Gray. Gray, you fought with Curtis Raging Flame before. You should be able to feel that the blood method he cultivates is stronger than the blood method of our 3 royal families, right? It's indeed stronger, but not by much. Gray thought about it carefully and judged. The blood techniques of the Inferno Kingdom are slightly stronger than the royal families of the 3 kingdoms. In addition to Nicholas Inferno's realm at that time, he should have reached the peak of the first stage of the Desolate level. Therefore, even if I joined forces with the Desolate level Blood Beast, we could only fight to a draw. I think Blair Blaze is probably in the same situation now. He should be at the peak of the 3rd metamorphosis now. Francis's face was full of seriousness. Peak of the 3rd metamorphosis king-level warrior? Many people frowned, their hearts heavy. Originally, they thought that Dyphony Violet and Jennifer Austin would win in a 2-on-1 battle with the same level. They didn't expect Blair Blaze to have reached the peak of the 3rd metamorphosis. His combat strength wasn't any weaker than the 2 of them combined. Not only is there a second 3rd metamorphosis king-level warrior, but there's also a peak 3rd metamorphosis king-level warrior. No wonder he dares to attack the 3 kingdoms, Gray said solemnly. Their previous worries were confirmed. The Flame Kingdom dared to attack the 3 kingdoms at the same time because they had something to rely on. The Flame Kingdom alone had 2 third-tier kings. One of them had even reached the peak of the 3rd metamorphosis. He could fight against 2 third-tier kings by himself. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the Flame Kingdom was able to stop 3 kingdoms by itself. Thinking of how powerful the other party was, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Will he break through to magic light? A noble disciple asked worriedly. The magic light tier was a tier above the king tier. Once it appeared, it would be like the descent of magic light, destroying the world. This king of the Flame Kingdom had actually reached the peak of the 3rd tier. He was only 1 step away from becoming a magic light tier existence. People couldn't help but worry if he would break through in the near future. If the other party made a breakthrough, even if the 3 kingdoms joined forces, they would not be able to resist the other party. It's hard to say. Sophia Violet furrowed her delicate brows. It was reasonable to say that in the current era, The conditions for producing magic light tier powerhouses had already been lost. Even becoming a third-tier king was extremely difficult. However, the other party had not only reached the third tier of the king tier, he had also reached the peak of this tier. It wasn't impossible for him to go one step further and reach the magic light tier. If that was the case, it would be a disaster for the three kingdoms. If things went wrong, the three kingdoms would be destroyed. Rumble. Another loud sound. Blair Blaze, Jennifer Austin, and Diphone Violet, who were fighting, quickly separated. Blair, you've actually reached the peak of the third metamorphosis? Looking at Blair Blaze, who was hundreds of meters away, Diphone Violet said solemnly. His words confirmed Francis's guess. The reason why Blair Blaze was able to block his and Jennifer Austin's joint forces was because he had walked further than them on the path of the third metamorphosis. He had already touched the bottleneck of the fourth metamorphosis. Diphone, what do you think? What do you think of this surprise? Blair Blaze sneered. Golden flames burst out from his spear. It was like a sun blooming. He took the initiative to attack, attacking Jennifer Austin and Diphone Violet. Rumble. The tricolored light bloomed in the air again. Terrifying shockwaves rippled out. With the three of them as the center, the area within a radius of a few miles was razed to the ground. The soil on the ground was turned over again and again. It was full of scorched marks and huge craters. In the end, this battle between king-tier powerhouses that would go down in history ended abruptly. Several king-tier powerhouses on both sides were heavily injured. However, none of them died in battle. This was originally an excuse for the three kingdoms to test the Raging Flame Kingdom with the young generation being attacked. If they discovered that the Flame Kingdom was no match for the three kingdoms, they would naturally pursue and attack fiercely. However, when they discovered that the Flame Kingdom's battle strength was no weaker than the three kingdoms, they naturally stopped pursuing and attacking. On the other hand, the Kingdom of Fire was facing the combined forces of the three kingdoms. Although Blaze was able to fend off the combined forces of Diphone Violet and Jennifer Austin, he didn't have any advantage. Naturally, he didn't plan to continue the battle. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The three king-tier powerhouses retreated to the Jewel Kingdom's territory. The Flame Kingdom's king-tier powerhouses retreated to the Flame Kingdom's territory. The border between the Jewel Kingdom and the Flame Kingdom, close to 10 miles of area, was completely scorched. All the mountains had collapsed. All the plants had disappeared. All the lakes had dried up. The ground was like the surface of the moon. It was completely bare. The surface was full of huge craters with diameters ranging from tens of meters to hundreds of meters. The destructive power was enough to change the landscape to a certain extent. This was the destructive power of a king-tier powerhouse. With the help of Stanley Grinton's corpse, although I already have the battle strength of a third-stage desolation grade, compared to a real king-tier powerhouse, I'm still too far away. Looking at the broken land without any sense of beauty, Gray's heart was filled with shock. King-level experts. Only king-level experts were at the pinnacle of the continent. Everyone else, even if they were at the third level of the desolation grade, was still inferior to them in terms of strength. There was a clear distinction between king-level experts and those below. A sense of urgency rose in his heart. The gap between him and a king-tier powerhouse was too great. He did not need too many. Just one king-tier powerhouse was enough to wipe him out. Among his enemies was the most powerful force on this continent, the Kingdom of Raging Flames. This was a terrifying kingdom that could withstand the combined might of the Purple Moon, Scarlet, and Gem empires. Not only did they have a large number of king-tier powerhouses, but they also had Blaze, who could fight 2 thrice metamorphosis king-tier powerhouses alone. If there were no accidents, he should be the strongest person on the continent. Unfortunately, he was on the opposite side of such a powerful force. There was no way to resolve the situation. It was not only because he was an enemy of the Flame Kingdom, but also because he had killed a direct descendant of the Flame Kingdom's royal family. With such a powerful enemy, the only thing he could do now was to increase his strength as quickly as possible and increase his ability to protect himself. Suddenly, Gray felt a gaze like two sharp knives stabbing into his body, causing him to feel a faint pain. He looked over and saw that in the direction of the group of people from the Flame Kingdom, a person's gaze had fallen on him. This was an old man, but his body was extremely tall and straight. The king-tier powerhouses around him seemed to regard this old man as their leader. This person was Blair Blaze, who had fought 2 thrice metamorphosis king-tier powerhouses alone. He was the strongest person on the continent. Next to him was a young man with blonde hair. The young man was slender and handsome. It was Niklos Blaze. At this moment, he was saying something to the old man. It seemed that it was because of his words that the old man's gaze fell on Gray. Although he was too far away to hear what Niklos Blaze was saying, there was no doubt that it was not a good thing. Gray could not help but be vigilant. Great-grandfather, he is the one who has a bloodline affinity and can fight above his level. Niklos Blaze coldly looked at Gray in the distance and said, "He is the one who killed Kotick?" Blair Blaze's eyes were cold as he asked. "Yes, he is the one who killed my brother Kotick." Niklos Blaze's eyes were filled with traces of hatred. Facing the enemy who had killed his brother, even someone as calm as him found it difficult to hide his emotions at this time. What a pity for Kotick. With his potential, he had a very high chance of becoming a king-tier warrior in the future. Blair Blaze sighed softly. At his age, he didn't know how many generations his bloodline had been passed down, and he didn't know how many descendants he had. His familial ties were already very thin, and what he valued was the aptitude of the descendants, not the relationship of bloodline. Great-grandfather, this person's cultivation talent is not bad, and he also has a bloodline affinity. I suggest that we kill him in advance. Niklos Blaze's eyes flashed coldly as he said solemnly. Although his bloodline affinity might not be useful after he reaches king tier, it is indeed necessary to kill him in advance. Blair Blaze nodded and looked at a man shrouded in black not far away. "Theodore, you are now one of the managers of the Blaze Fong. You are also the one who understands the Purple Moon Kingdom the most among the king-tier managers. I will leave this matter to you." "No problem, please rest assured," the man in black said with a sinister smile. This man was the king of assassins, Theodore. He was chased by the Purple Moon Kingdom and fled to the Flame Kingdom. In order to obtain the protection of the Flame Kingdom, he was forced to join the Flame Kingdom's Blaze Fong and became one of the managers. In fact, he had participated in the attack on Jadeite Castle a few days ago. At that time, he was the king-tier warrior who had fought with Fitch Violet. He naturally hated the Purple Moon Kingdom who had forced him to lose his freedom. Now that the Flame Kingdom was preparing to kill a talented disciple of the Purple Moon Kingdom in the cradle, he was naturally happy to do so. Chapter 454. In the capital of the Purple Moon Kingdom, after a week of traveling, Gray and the rest had returned. The descendants of the various families had dispersed. Gray also bid farewell to Francis and Sophia. "You've probably been targeted by the Flame Kingdom. I suggest that you don't leave the capital. I'll arrange a place for you to stay." Looking at Gray, Francis said with a serious expression. Some of the descendants of the nobles did not know that Gray's strength had reached level 3 of the desolate level because the royal family had blocked the news. However, as a direct descendant of the royal family, he naturally knew. He was only at level 2 of the barbarian level, but he already had the combat strength of level 3 of the desolate level. He saw terrifying potential in Gray, which even made him a little jealous. Of course, he would not kill Gray just because of jealousy. Therefore, it was a fact that he valued Gray very much. After the assassination attempt by the Flame Teeth, he could not help but worry that Gray would become the target of the Flame Teeth. "Do we have to go back?" Sophia was wearing a long blue dress that showed her slender waist. She brushed her long purple hair behind her ear, and asked Gray with a slight frown. "I've been away from home for so long. I have to at least go back and tell them that I'm safe." Gray shrugged. He naturally understood that Francis and Sophia were concerned about his safety. However, his situation was special. The fastest way to grow was not to stay in a certain place and cultivate for a long time. Instead, it was to consume the blood of various blood fiends to form stronger blood fiends. If he stayed in the capital, all of his actions would be exposed to the royal family. His affinity physique could not stand up to scrutiny and could easily be exposed. Affinity with 2 types of blood fiends was an affinity physique. Affinity with 5 types of blood fiends was an affinity physique. However, if he had affinity with more than 10 or even 20 types of blood fiends, it would no longer be an affinity physique. Would they think that Gray had mastered some kind of method to implant multiple types of blood fiends? Although Gray's method could not be taught to others, would the royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom believe it? Gray would never think of others in a bad light, but he would never think of everything in a good light either. Although he was currently favored by the royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom, when the benefits were great enough, it was not impossible for them to fall out with him. For example, when Greta Austin, the king-level powerhouse of the Jewel Kingdom, discovered that he had multiple bloodlines in his body, if it was proven that he had cultivated a hybrid bloodline technique, what would the royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom do? The biggest possibility was to force him to hand over the hybrid blood technique. At most, they would give him some material compensation afterwards. As for asking for his opinion, they wouldn't force him if he didn't want to hand it over. In Gray's opinion, such a thing was unlikely. The value of the hybrid blood technique was too great. The method of implanting multiple bloodlines was definitely not any less valuable than the hybrid blood technique. It might even be more valuable. If the royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom had the wrong idea that he had such a method, they would definitely force him to hand it over. Polly and Darren had already returned to the Imperial City from the territory, but Gray had no intention of returning to the territory. After bidding farewell to the 3 of them, Gray left the Imperial City. Without taking a carriage, Gray went to a deserted area and directly used the space teleportation. With the amount of blood power he had now, he could use the space teleportation multiple times. When he passed by the forest where he encountered the desolate level blood fiend that could control spirits, Gray hesitated for a moment. In the end, he gave up on hunting down the desolate level blood fiend that could control spirit. Although his strongest combat power now, which was his ability to control corpses, was already at level 3 of the desolate level, both he and the corpses he controlled had a weakness. That was, although his physical body was strong, the essence of his soul was rather weak. In the face of a desolate level blood fiend that could possibly attack the soul, his strong physical body might not be of much use. If he was not careful, he could very well be killed by a wave of soul attack. If that happened, he would really want to cry, but no tears would come out. Although his soul power was good, it was not enough for him to risk his life for it. He could wait until he reached the desolate level and his soul was strong enough to resist soul attacks before hunting it down. After using the space teleportation several times, Gray returned to Fergus Castle. After leaving for more than a month, the Fergus family did not change much. If there was a change, it would be that the castle had become more lively. Because the castle had grown bigger, the Fergus family had hired many more servants. Earl Fergus and Bernal were not at home. It was said that they had gone to visit a Viscount family in a kingdom to discuss business. Because of Gray, the Fergus family had accumulated many noble connections in the kingdom. After the war with the Flame Kingdom, the 2 of them were busy developing business and turning these connections into resources. Gray did not know much about these things and did not want to care about them. After all, he did not even manage his own territory and was just a hands-off boss. After seeing the group of people who were at the peak of the continent and their terrifying strength that could destroy a city, he was even more certain of the path he had chosen. putting all his energy into improving his strength and using the improvement of his strength to drive other aspects, such as wealth and status, was Grey's path. 3 days later, Earl Fergus and Bernal returned. "Grey, are you hurt?" Earl Fergus and Bernal were both concerned. Because they had many noble connections, they were very well informed. Not long after the news of the attack on the younger generation of the Three Kingdoms reached the Purple Moon Kingdom, they had already heard about it. They had been worried for the past few days until they found out that Grey was not among the people who were attacked and killed. They were completely relieved. "I'm fine." Grey smiled and shook his head, then asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" He noticed that Earl Fergus and Bernal, who had just returned, did not look too good. Many of the family's businesses have been maliciously suppressed. Earl Fergus frowned slightly and did not say anything, but Bernal was slightly angry. "Which force did it?" Grey raised his eyebrows. It was reasonable to say that with his current reputation and status in the Purple Moon Kingdom, there should be very few forces that would dare to make things difficult for the Fergus family. "The Clover Chamber of Commerce. There's nothing wrong with business competition, but this Chamber of Commerce is deliberately suppressing the Fergus family's shop. Several chambers of commerce have been forced to cancel their transactions with us, causing us a lot of losses." There was a hint of anger in Bernal's voice. "The Clover Chamber of Commerce? Which force does this Chamber of Commerce belong to? Could it be that the Nahum family is behind it?" Grey was naturally not familiar with business and naturally did not know the force behind the Clover Chamber of Commerce. However, with his current strength and status, he could probably imagine who they would dare to provoke. "Yes, it's the Duke Neum family. The Clover Chamber of Commerce is one of the several chambers of commerce under the Duke Neum family," Bernal said. "The Nahum family, it really is this family." Grey's expression was slightly cold. Ever since he revealed his desolate level strength, there were very few forces that dared to provoke the Fergus family. Even the Marquis family had to think twice. For example, the Warren Marquis family and the Oka Marquis family. They were extremely rampant in the past, but now there was no longer any news. During this Three Kingdoms exchange, the descendants of these two families were like mice that saw a cat when they saw Grey. They hid far away, afraid that they would be targeted by Grey. The only ones who dared to make an enemy of him were the three Duke families with extremely deep foundations and once produced a king-level warrior. Of the three Duke families, Grey was familiar with Elijah and Samantha, direct descendants of the Addison family, and had cooperated to explore the king's tomb. He had formed a friendship with Gavin Kenneth, a direct descendant of the Kenneth family, on the battlefield. Back then, they had worked together to fight against Codicus Blaze, so they could be considered friends. Naturally, these two families would not go against the Fergus family and deliberately suppress the Fergus family. Only the Nahum family had such a possibility. After all, his relationship with the Nahum family was extremely bad. After the last war with the Flame Kingdom, if he had not been rewarded with a noble title, he might have been attacked by the Nahum family. "Grey, don't be impulsive. The Nahum family is powerful. We can't afford to offend them." Earl Fergus, who had been silent all this time, frowned. "Don't worry, I won't be impulsive." Grey shook his head. If it was said that before going to the Jewel Kingdom, he was still quite afraid of the Nahum family, but now this fear was gone. A king-level powerhouse's corpse, even if only the physical strength could be used, was comparable to a level 3 desolation level blood warrior. With this kind of strength, he no longer needed to be afraid of the Nahum family. After all, the Nahum family did not have a king-level powerhouse in charge. A few years ago, he was forced to hide from the Nahum family in fear for so long. He also had a lot of resentment in his heart. Now that the Nahum family took the initiative to provoke him, he had to teach the Nahum family a lesson no matter what. Although he could not kill because of the rule that aristocrats were not allowed to kill each other, there were policies and countermeasures. Even if he could not kill them, It should not be a problem to severely injure them and make them lie in bed for a few months, right? As one of the 3 strongest aristocratic families in the Purple Moon Kingdom, they naturally valued their reputation very much. The Nahum family would probably feel worse than being killed. On the second day, Gray left the Fergus castle. When he reappeared, he was near the Half-Moon Lake in his earl's territory. He was not in a hurry to deal with the Fergus family's shop being suppressed. He had more important things to do now, which was to investigate the secret room in the Half-Moon Castle. Initially, he estimated that if he wanted to investigate this secret room, he would need to at least have the combat strength of a level 3 desolation level. Originally, he thought that he would have to wait for a long time. However, he did not expect this trip to the Jewel Kingdom to yield an unexpected reward. He accidentally discovered that he could control king-level corpses. After controlling king-level corpses, he already had the combat strength of a level 3 desolation level. He was very curious. Just the fake secret room at the periphery had yielded a lot of rewards. What would the real secret room yield? Chapter 455. Young Master Gray. Entering the Half-Moon Castle by boat, Gray was welcomed by the castle's servants. He saw the newly renovated Half-Moon Castle. Since the last time he was here, the Fergus family had arranged for people to repair the Half-Moon Castle. After a few months, the repair work had been completed, and the Half-Moon Castle looked brand new. Passing through the well and the Formless Soul Attack Tunnel, Gray once again entered the hidden residence, and came to the innermost secret room tunnel. Looking into the tunnel, he saw that it was more than 100 meters long. It was purple in color and was paved with precious rune material, amethyst stone. A huge rune mechanism was engraved on it. In the innermost part of the tunnel, there was a silver metal door that shone with a silver light. It was still intact after 1,000 years, and people couldn't help but want to see what kind of treasure was behind the door. Whoosh! Stanley Grinton was released from the purple ring by Gray. His expression was still blank, and there was a sword hanging on his waist. It wasn't his original weapon, as it had been taken away by the 2 king-level experts of the Jewel Kingdom. This sword was one of the spoils of war that Gray had obtained from the battle with the Flame Kingdom. It was a bronze-level magic weapon. Do it! A thought was sent to Stanley Grinton, and the originally blank Stanley Grinton, who hadn't moved since he came out, began to move. He strode into the tunnel. Whoosh! Just as Stanley Grinton stepped into the tunnel, a green light suddenly flashed and quickly attacked Stanley Grinton. Back then, Gray was heavily injured by this green light, and had no choice but to give up exploring this secret room. Crack! In an instant, Stanley Grinton pulled out his sword and slashed. Then, not far from Stanley Grinton, the green light suddenly exploded. The whole process was so fast that Gray almost couldn't see it clearly. Fortunately, Gray's control over Stanley Grinton didn't need to be so precise as to how it should move or attack. It was all based on the body's own physical reactions to complete all of this. Otherwise, even if he was controlling a king-level expert's corpse, his own reaction speed would not be able to keep up, and he would only become a target. He commanded Stanley Grinton to continue moving forward. Immediately, he saw streaks of green light that were enough to injure Stanley Grinton even with his current defenses. Gotcha, gotcha! Stanley Grinton waved the sword in his hand continuously. Suddenly, one after another, the cyan rays of light that approached him suddenly shattered. Not a single ray of cyan light was able to get close to him. 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters. The deeper they went, the denser the green light became, and the more powerful it became. This passage was paved with a precious rune material called amethyst. It was inscribed with a very high-level rune mechanism that was extremely powerful. After 50 meters, the green light had become extremely dense and powerful. Outside the passage, Gray could even see that the magic weapon in Stanley Grinton's hand had a crack. He commanded Stanley Grinton to continue going deeper. Soon after, clang! There was a sound of metal breaking, and then the bronze magic weapon in Stanley Grinton's hand suddenly broke into two from the middle. Under the attack of the green light, the bronze-ranked mana weapon was finally damaged. Puff! After the magic sword was broken, a green light covered Stanley Grinton's body. A huge tear suddenly appeared on Stanley Grinton's clothes, and a shallow scratch appeared on his skin. Even the body of a king stage powerhouse could not help but be injured under the green light, although it was only a slight scratch. Gray used his metallization ability on Stanley Grinton, and a silver metal light appeared on the surface of his body, and then he continued to move forward. Without his mana weapon, Stanley Glinton could only fight with his bare hands. Fortunately, Stanley Glinton's body's defense was no weaker than a bronze-ranked mana weapon. In fact, it was even stronger than a bronze-ranked mana weapon. 80 meters. 90 meters. The deeper he went, the denser the green radiance became and the more powerful it became. Even with Stanley Grinton's reaction speed, it was unavoidable that he wasn't able to block it in time. The green wind blades avoided his fists and struck his body. However, his king-class body, which had been strengthened by metallization, was able to withstand the green wind blades without suffering any damage. 110 meters. 120 meters. Finally, Stanley Grinton walked to the silver metal door under the dense and powerful wind blades. This is a bit difficult. After letting Stanley Grinton out of the passage, Gray raised his eyebrows when he saw Stanley Grinton's tattered clothes. As he expected, Stanley Grinton did have the ability to pass through the runic mechanism. However, compared to having the ability to bring someone through, the latter was obviously more difficult. When Stanley Grinton passed through, it was inevitable that he would be cut by the wind blades. In the end, he had to rely on his strong physical defense to withstand it, let alone protect him through. It was obviously impossible to rely on Stanley Grinton to protect him through this runic mechanism passage. It's a pity that I can't synchronize my vision with the corpse's manipulation. Gray's manipulation of corpses had always been on a macro level, and he did not control every movement in detail. Naturally, he could not share the same vision as the corpse. Therefore, even if Stanley Grinton entered the secret room, he could not know what was in the secret room through Stanley Grinton. Most importantly, this runic mechanism passage, which was more than 100 meters long, was extremely powerful. Stanley Grinton could not use space items. Even if he ordered Stanley Grinton to move the things he saw out, it was very likely that they would be destroyed by the runic mechanism passage. I wonder if I can destroy this runic mechanism? Gray did not need to think about cracking the runic mechanism. He had never learned runic knowledge and did not know how to crack it. Moreover, even if he was a rune master, he probably did not have the ability to crack it. From the power of this runic mechanism, it was not difficult to imagine the complexity of this runic mechanism. Without the standard of a rune master, it was impossible to even think about it. The only thing he could think of was whether he could rely on Stanley Grinton's destructive power to destroy this runic mechanism. Gray immediately ordered Stanley Grinton to destroy the runic mechanism. Boom! Relying on his strong physical body to block the green wind blade, Stanley Grinton's punch, which was powerful enough to reach the third level of the desolate level, tore through the air and produced a sonic boom as it fiercely smashed into the wall paved with purple gold stone. Suddenly, there was a violent tremor, and the entire hall shook violently. Gray could not help but worry that the entire space would collapse and that he would be buried alive. Fortunately, such a thing did not happen. After the tremor, the hall did not show any signs of cracking or collapsing. Gray looked at the place where Stanley Grinton's fist had hit. There were no obvious fist marks on the purple wall, only some faint traces that could not be seen. As a top runic material, purple gold stone was naturally extremely hard, even harder than ordinary metals. However, it was absolutely impossible for it to be so hard that there was only such a degree of wear and tear under the destructive power of the third level of the desolate level. It should be known that with Stanley Grinton's current destructive power, he could even destroy an ordinary bronze-level magic weapon, let alone a stone like purple gold stone. Obviously, this was due to the runic mechanism's reinforcement. The runic mechanism strengthened the purple gold stone's defense, making it stronger than an ordinary bronze-level magic weapon. Moreover, this runic mechanism should have the effect of absorbing the damage from the wind-type blood fiends. Otherwise, this runic mechanism would very likely be destroyed by the power of the blood fiends that he had activated. Gray retreated further away, and was prepared to leave this space as soon as he felt that something was wrong. He ordered Stanley Grinton to continue attacking. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the opponent's fists were like iron hammers that weighed tens of thousands of kilograms. Punch after punch landed on that location. The entire space shook violently, and some of the decorations in the space fell. Gray estimated that although this location was at least 100 meters underground, the castle above him should be able to feel it. Gotcha! After a few dozen strikes, the wall paved with purple gold stone finally showed some changes. Following a crisp sound, several cracks appeared on the purple gold stone, and the runic patterns carved on it were damaged. However, in the runic mechanism's passageway, green wind blades were still attacking Stanley Grinton from time to time. Obviously, the destruction of the runic patterns did not affect the operation of the runic mechanism. Gotcha! He ordered Stanley Grinton to continue hammering. The cracks became bigger and bigger, and finally, several huge purple gold stones shattered and fell from the wall. Following the fall of these huge purple gold stones, the green wind blades that constantly attacked the runic mechanism's passageway completely disappeared. Success! Seeing that the green wind blades had disappeared, Gray walked into the passageway and found that there were no green wind blades attacking him. A hint of joy flashed across his face as he ordered Stanley Grinton to be in front, while he followed behind Stanley Grinton, in case there were any remnants of the runic mechanism. Chapter 456. Sure enough, it was necessary to be cautious. Following behind Stanley Grinton, he had only moved forward 10 meters before he was attacked by several green wind blades. If not for Stanley Grinton's protection, Gray would have been seriously injured or even killed. Destroy the rune mechanism, move forward. Destroy the rune mechanism, move forward. After walking and stopping for an hour or two, Gray finally arrived in front of the silver metal door. Behind him was a rune mechanism that had been completely destroyed. The silver metal door was 2 meters high and 3 meters wide. In the middle, there was a clear keyhole. Do I need a key? Seeing the keyhole, Gray was speechless. After more than 1,000 years, he had no idea where to find the key to this secret room. He could only try to open it with brute force. However, he did not know how strong the silver metal door was. With Stanley Grinton's destructive power at the 3rd level of the desolated level, could he break it open? He tried to push the silver metal door. Creak! An unexpected scene occurred. The silver metal door, which he thought was locked, actually cracked open under his push. He could already vaguely see the yellow stone floor behind it. It's not locked. His heart filled with surprise, Gray exerted force with both hands and pushed open the silver metal door. Suddenly, the 2 heavy doors slowly opened, and the space inside slowly appeared in Gray's vision. Suddenly, the moment the door opened, a terrifying pressure suddenly spread out from the secret room and fell on Gray's body. Gray felt his body suddenly sink, as if he was carrying a boulder of tens of thousands of kilograms. This is pressure? Gray was surprised. Recently, he had become very familiar with the feeling of pressure. Stanley Grinton had it. After all, he was a king stage expert. Even after death, there was still pressure on his body. However, compared to when he was alive, this pressure had become extremely weak. Withstanding the pressure, Gray looked into the secret room. There was no light in the secret room, but with night vision, the situation in the secret room was still clear. On the left side of the room, there was a bookshelf. On the bookshelf, there were about 20 books. A little further in, there was a row of long weapon racks. On the weapon racks there were many weapons of various colors. On the right side of the secret chamber, there was a stone platform on the outermost side. On the stone platform, there were many yellow metal utensils of various sizes. The large ones could hold dozens of portions, while the small ones could only hold one portion. Inside, there were several purple wooden boxes, each about the size of an ordinary suitcase. And in the middle of this secret chamber, at the innermost wall, was the source of the heavy pressure. It was a skeleton in clothes. The reason why it was determined to be a skeleton was because the exposed arms and the jade-like bones were clearly visible. It's at least at the magic light level. The pressure coming from this skeleton was much stronger than the pressure coming from Stanley Grinton's body. With such a strong pressure even after death, Gray determined that this skeleton was most likely the skeleton of a magic light level expert. I didn't feel any pressure before. The silver metal door should have the effect of isolating pressure, blocking it. How could a powerhouse at least at the magic light level die silently in this secret chamber? Gray was puzzled. Even during the Empire's era, a magic light level existence was bound to be an extremely terrifying existence. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be possible for one to die silently in such a secret chamber. As for the ruins of the Empire that he, Sophia, and Teresa had once explored, there was a skeleton suspected to be at the magic light level. It was obvious that this person had been killed. The huge crater under the skeleton was left behind when it was killed. Withstanding the pressure, Gray walked into the secret chamber. The current him was different from when he first explored the ruins of the Empire. At that time, he only had the strength of a berserker, and could only get within a few dozen meters of the skeleton. However, it was different now. He had reached the second level of the berserker level, and his physical defense was as strong as the first level of the desolation level. Even a berserker would find it difficult to injure him. With such a strong physical body, it was naturally impossible for him to be stopped by the skeleton's pressure. Gray first walked to the yellow metal containers on the right. Among the items present, these were the ones that attracted Gray the most. The yellow metal containers were made of the same material as the 2 portions of the king beast's blood in the fake secret chamber outside. Needless to say, these containers contained magic potions that were as valuable as the king beast's blood. Moreover, they were sealed very well, so they should still be effective. Gray picked them up one by one and checked the words engraved on the bottles. Spirit-burning potion, stealth potion, hunter potion. The potions were all well preserved and had medicinal effects. However, it was a pity that Gray did not understand the effects of these potions, so he did not dare to consume them carelessly. Consuming potions carelessly could lead to death. This was the case in his previous life, and it was the same in this world. Why would there be such potions in the secret chamber of the Empire? When he saw the name of one of the potions, Gray was shocked when he opened the bottle and took a sniff. The words engraved on the bottle were Flame Potion. This was the name of the potion that he won from Niklos Blaze at the banquet held in the Purple Moon Kingdom. At first, he thought that it was just the same name. However, after he took a sniff, he immediately determined that this bottle of Flame Potion was exactly the same as the one he had consumed. The Flame Potion was a unique potion of the Flame Kingdom. Logically speaking, it should not have appeared in the secret chamber of the Empire from 1,000 years ago. However, it did. This made him doubt his judgment of the Millennium Secret Chamber. This must be the secret chamber of the Empire. That skeleton's strength was at least of the magic light level. Only the Empire would have such a strong person. Then, what's with this bottle of Flame Potion? Gray frowned and thought hard. Took him a while before he figured out the reason. It was rumored that the 4 kingdoms were formed on the ruins of the Empire. The founders of the 4 kingdoms occupied the wealth left behind by the Empire. To a certain extent, the 4 kingdoms were the continuation of the Empire. The formula for the Flame Potion might have existed 1,000 years ago. However, It was later mastered by the founders of the Flame Kingdom and became powerful. In the end, not only was the country named the Flame Kingdom, even the family name was changed to Flame. The royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom also possessed the magic potion known as the Purple Moon Potion. If he was not mistaken, the royal family of the Purple Moon Kingdom also inherited the Purple Moon Potion from the Empire's ruins. There are actually a total of 9 bottles. After checking, Gray discovered that there were quite a few flame potions among these magic potions. There were a total of 9 bottles. This surprised him. He didn't dare to casually consume other potions, but this flame potion was something he could consume. After looking through all the small metal bottles, Gray looked at the large metal bottles. There were a total of 3 of them. Judging from the size of the metal bottles, each of them could hold between 10 to 100 portions of liquid. He looked at the closest metal bottle. Wind Falcon. This was the metal bottle of a blood beast king Wind Falcon. Gray had obtained the blood of this blood beast in the secret room before. However, there was only 1 portion of it. From the volume of this metal bottle and the level of the liquid, there were at least 30 to 40 portions. Although he already had the blood of a king-class blood beast, it didn't mean that the blood of a king-class blood beast was useless. The blood of a blood beast could also increase one's strength. It was no different from potions that could increase one's strength. The blood of a king-class blood beast was even more so. The blood of a blood beast king Wind Falcon could be used to increase one's strength. Even if the effect was weaker than the flame potion, it wouldn't be much weaker. He looked at another metal bottle. This was the metal bottle of a blood beast king Horned Goat. It also contained 30 to 40 portions. Gray looked at the last metal bottle and saw the words, Diamond King Beast, written on it. It's actually this blood beast. Seeing the name of this blood beast, Gray was slightly surprised. In the outer library, Gray had once obtained a book called Physical Abilities. In that book, there was an introduction to this type of blood fiend. This was because it was a monarch-level blood beast with golden fur all over its body. It had an ape-like appearance, but it had a single horn and only 1 eye. This was a purely physical king-level blood fiend, which left a deep impression on Gray. The reason why it had left such a deep impression on Gray was that it was an extremely powerful blood fiend even among special blood fiends. Generally speaking, a blood fiend with a special body type would either have a strong physical body and powerful strength, terrifying speed and strength, or a strong physical body and terrifying speed. In short, any 2 of the 3 aspects of speed, strength, or defense would be at the peak of the same realm. However, this type of blood beast was extremely unique. Whether it was in terms of speed, strength, or defense, they were all at the peak of the same realm. A strong physical body, powerful strength, and terrifying speed made this type of blood beast extremely powerful. Even among special blood fiends, there were few blood fiends that could compare to it. I originally planned to look for the Black Crystal Beast or the Golden Rhinoceros after I was done with my business. Now, it seems that I don't need to. Moreover, I have a better choice. Gray's eyes were blazing. The Black Crystal Beast could raise his strength and defense to the peak of the same realm. The Golden Rhinoceros could raise his defense to the peak of the same realm. However, this Diamond King Beast could raise his speed, strength, and defense to the peak of the same realm. It was definitely a better choice than the Black Crystal Beast or the Golden Rhinoceros.